Chapter 498. At that time, a large group of great mediums who coveted the inheritance of the Chaos Fiend God would try their best to plot against him. He couldn't do that. It was too dangerous. Therefore, Feng Zichen put away the mark of the Chaos Fiend God that he was going to give away. Who would have thought that the creation of heaven and earth would be used today? Go! Feng Zichen waved his sleeve and threw out 3,000 Chaos Jade Stones. Suddenly, the 3,000 Jade Stones turned into 3,000 phantoms of the Chaos Fiend God, standing in the chaos. That's more like it. Looking at the phantoms of the Chaos Fiend God around him, Feng Zichen nodded with satisfaction. Since he wanted to imitate it, he had to make it real. It would be best if he could recreate the scene when Pangu created the world. Open! Feng Zichen's body shook, and a huge Pangu appeared. He raised the Pangu axe in his hand and slashed at the chaos in front of him. With a crack, a huge crack appeared in the chaos, and a clear and turbid air was born. Kill! The phantoms of the Chaos Fiend God around him rushed towards Feng Zichen after seeing his action. Panga's Zichen clan brandished their axes to meet them. A battle to split open the sky broke out just like that. It was like the scene when Pangu created the sky in the past. The phantoms of the Chaos Fiend God were cut down by Feng Zichen's axe. With the swing of the sky-splitting axe, the crack in the chaos became bigger and bigger. More and more innate turbid air was born, and a vast world gradually took shape. The clear air rose and formed the sky. The turbid air fell and formed the earth. The phantoms of the fallen Chaos Fiend God turned into the world and became the resources for the evolution of the world. Feng Zichen slashed 49 times in one breath, and only then did he kill all the phantoms of the Chaos Fiend God. The chaos was also completely split open by him, and the small primitive world gradually took shape. But at this time, Panga's axe also began to collapse because it couldn't bear the power of splitting open the sky. His axe turned into a bell of chaos. The axe blade transformed into a Taiji diagram, while the axe blade transformed into the Pangu banner. These three treasures were all superior-grade Khanate spirit treasures. At the same time, the chaotic green lotus was also shattered into pieces by the attacks of the 3,000 demonic gods. His lotus leaves turned into a 5-colored flag. Because of the blood of the Chaos Fiend God, the lotus stem turned into a blood-red spear. The green lotus transformed into a 9th-grade green lotus of creation. These three items were also superior-grade Khanate numinous treasures. Rumble! Chaotic energy surged, the earth, fire, water, and wind were in chaos, and the world seemed to be about to return to chaos. Suppress! Seeing this, Feng Zichen hurriedly took out those Khanate spiritual treasures and continued to split heaven and earth. Clang clang clang. The chaos bell clanged and suppressed the chaotic chi of earth, fire, water, and wind. Panga's banner continued to unleash chaos sword chi, destroying the surging chaos chi. The Taiji diagram transformed into a golden bridge that spanned between heaven and earth, suppressing heaven and earth. The innate Wuxian banners then split into 5 and landed in the 5 directions of heaven and earth, stabilizing the 5 directions and 5 elements. Khanate spiritual treasures exploded one after another, and the miniature flood world gradually stabilized. Rumble! However, before Feng Zichen could rejoice for long, the surrounding chaos chi suddenly pressed down. The miniature flood world couldn't withstand the power of the chaos. The sky sank and the earth rose. Heaven and earth seemed to be closing. I still can't avoid this calamity. Seeing this, Feng Zichen smiled faintly. His body suddenly expanded, and his head was the blue sky. His feet stepped on the earth, and his body was a pillar that supported heaven and earth. Since then, the sky rose by 10 feet every day, and the earth thickened by 10 feet every day. During this period, Feng Zichen's body was also changing. One moment, he had a dragon head and a human body, the next he had 3 heads and 6 arms, and the next he had a dragon god and a snake tail. There were a total of 36 transformations. These were all Khanate Dao bodies. In the past, when Pangu opened the sky, there were 9 transformations in a day, and he was a god in the sky and a saint in the earth. These changes lasted for a total of 9 days, and 81 Khanate Dao images were born. These 81 Dao images were all the Khanate Dao bodies in the primordial world. The main body of a Khanate god fiend was born with this as a model. Feng Zichen's strength was, of course, far inferior to Pangu's. Therefore, he couldn't produce 81 types of Khanate Dao bodies. He could only produce 36 types. In the future, if Khanate life forms were born in the miniature flood world, they wouldn't be able to escape the range of these 36 types of connate Tao bodies. Thus, 10,000 years later, the world was stabilizing day by day, and there were no signs of closing. Feng Zichen also collapsed. The moment he collapsed, his body underwent a miraculous change. Just like Pangu's father, his body gradually melted and turned into all things. The sky was primordial, and sprouts began to sprout. Thus, heaven and earth were separated, and heaven and earth were established. They opened yin and sensed yang, and they distributed essence energy. The primordial Pangu, the dying incarnation. His left eye was the sun, and his right eye was the moon. His limbs and 5 bodies were the 4 poles and 5 mountains. His blood was the rivers, his meridians were the ground, his muscles were the soil, his hair was the stars, his fur was the grass, his teeth were the gold and stone. His essence was the pearls and jade. His sweat was the rain, and the insects in his body were affected by the wind. His spine stood between heaven and earth, turning into the majestic Mount Buzhou. His acupuncture points fused with the connate turbid qi, turning into grotto heavens and blessed lands. The god contained in them gradually rose and fused with the connate clear qi, forming the main star of the primordial world. A person's body was like heaven and earth. There was the rise and fall of yin and yang, the appearance of black rabbits, the flow of tides, the bright and dark of the wind and rain, the flashing of thunder and lightning, the puffing of clouds, the flowing of mountains and rivers, the flourishing and withering of plants, the silent movements, the opening and closing of the changes. All of them were similar to the sky. Feng Zichen's changes were in line with this principle. This was also the greatness of the Taoist body. The body was heaven and earth. At the moment when Feng Zichen's physical body completely melted, he only felt that his connate true spirit was empty, and there were endless Taoist understandings lingering in his heart. The questions that puzzled him in the past suddenly became clear at this time. This caused his realm to have a tendency to rise. In a trance, Feng Zichen seemed to have broken away from everything and returned to the Ziwei star to carry out a deep level of enlightenment. Feng Zichen's Taoist body transformed into heaven and earth, and the small primordial world was completely formed. It was very similar to the primordial world, but countless times smaller. Rumble! Suddenly, there was a throbbing sound from heaven and earth, and mysterious tracks appeared one after another. There were a total of 49 tracks, like the marks of the great Tao, boundless and mysterious. Those were the marks of the sky-splitting axe. As soon as these marks appeared, they gathered together and merged with the origin of heaven and earth, gradually evolving into a jade plate. The heavenly Tao jade plate, also known as the good fortune jade plate, was the most precious treasure of heaven and earth, representing the heavenly Tao. With it, one could control the world. Bang! Inexplicably, a supreme force appeared and shattered the heavenly Tao jade plate. The backlash of chaos. Chaos opened and heaven and earth were born. How could chaos not have resentment? This attack was the revenge of chaos. It was originally to take revenge on the small primordial world, but it was unexpectedly blocked by the heavenly Tao jade plate. It was not unexpected. The heavenly Tao jade plate should have such a tribulation. Chapter 499. Think about it. The heavenly Tao jade disc was a supreme treasure of heaven and earth. Obtaining it would allow one to control this world. How could the heavenly Tao allow it to exist in this world? It would definitely destroy it. The lesser desolate realm was like that, and so was the primordial world. Rumble! Purple gas appeared in the sky, curling up like smoke. It was magnificent. After that, a majestic power appeared, vast and ethereal. That was the great Tao. It had descended. Originally, Feng Zichen's creation of the lesser desolate realm would not attract the attention of the great Tao. However, it was all thanks to the chaos bead. Feng Zichen was worried that there would not be enough chaos energy to allow him to perfectly create the lesser desolate realm. When the world was created, he used the power of the chaos bead to open a passage that led directly to the primordial world. Yes, that's right. Feng Zichen created the lesser desolate realm in the middle of the passage. This also allowed the creation of the lesser desolate realm to combine the power of the primordial world and the primordial world. In addition, Feng Zichen was a chaos creature. It could be said that the lesser desolate realm was a boundless world that belonged to the primordial world. The boundless world that the chaos creatures created in the primordial world naturally belonged to the primordial world. But forget it. The main body of the lesser desolate realm was still the top grotto heaven of the primordial world, Zichen's grotto heaven. Moreover, it had an inseparable relationship with Pangu. Now, it was located in the void of the primordial world and was protected by the primordial world. This also caused it to be controlled by the primordial world. All these reasons combined made the lesser desolate realm a great world that was attached to the primordial world. Although it was controlled by the primordial world, it had great autonomy compared to the other boundless worlds. To be precise, the primordial world's heavenly Tao could not interfere with the development of this world. Of course, this was not important. What was important was that the creation of a world in the primordial world was a matter of great merit to the great Tao. Of course, the great Tao had to bestow merit. Although it could not compare to the merit that Pangu obtained when he opened the heavens, it was still quite a lot. After all, that was merit bestowed by the grand Tao, and it was natural merit that could only be chanced upon by luck. It was extremely precious, and it wasn't inferior to a precious treasure. Even if it was just a tiny bit, it would still be very beneficial. Rumble. A purple lustrous brilliance appeared, like a purple cloud, dazzling one's mind. Purple was the color of innate merit. The golden one was the mysterious yellow merit. The connate merit fell and split into two. The small one, which was about 20% of its original size, dissipated into wisps of smoke and fused with the new heaven and earth to strengthen the origin of heaven and earth. About 80% of the ball of light passed through the layers of space and arrived on the North Star, where it fell into Feng Zichen's body. Feng Zichen was not dead. Of course, this innate merit would fall on him, and not all of it would be integrated into the world. This time, Feng Zichen had profited greatly. The innate merit was 1% of the merit of creation. Regardless of whether it was used to refine weapons or increase one's luck, it was extremely useful. After the great Tao bestowed merit, it slowly retreated. But it was not over yet. After the great Tao left, the primordial heavenly Tao descended. After all, the little desolate world was his subsidiary world. How could he ignore it? Golden light filled the world, and boundless mysterious yellow merit gathered. However, Feng Zichen did not care much about these mysterious yellow merit. He did not put them away, but let them fuse into the new little desolate world. Boom! After a loud bang, 70% of the mysterious yellow merit chi fused into the little desolate world, and 30% of the merit fused into the 3 heaven-splitting spiritual treasures. Unfortunately, the quality of these 3 heaven-splitting spiritual treasures was too poor. Even with the blessing of merit, they were not promoted to supreme grade innate merit. Instead, they became superior grade innate merit spiritual treasures. At this point, Feng Zichen's heaven-splitting process ended. As for the birth of an innate god fiend, that was impossible. Feng Zichen did not have the cultivation of Pangu. His body was limitless. Even if his body turned into heaven and earth, he could still give birth to an innate god fiend. In order to create the little desolate world, he had squeezed out the potential of his body. Not to mention an innate god fiend, even an innate life form would need a long time to be born. Is this the place that His Majesty prepared for us? Looking at the little desolate world, the human experts were shocked. This world was too similar to the primordial world. Except for being far less powerful than the primordial world, the rest was carved from the same mold. There was Mount Buzhou in the primordial world, and there was also one here. There was a boundless starry sky in the primordial world. Zhouxing. There was also one here. The human experts even saw the shadows of the heaven realm and the nether realm. This was simply another primordial world. Of course, no matter how well Feng Zichen imitated it, it was impossible for him to completely replicate the primordial world. There was still a big difference in the fine lines. But the human experts were too weak. Even if there was a difference, they could not see it. Rumble. The connate star tree appeared, took root in the boundless starry sky, and grew together with it. In the blink of an eye, the little desolate world became much more stable, and there was more spiritual opportunity. The weak period of the early stage of opening heaven passed just like that. A supreme-grade connate spirit root was so extraordinary. In essence, the connate star tree was not inferior to the little desolate world. If the connate star tree took root in the little desolate world, the two could grow together, and their safety would be greatly increased. With the human race living here, Feng Zichen could rest assured. Everyone, follow us into the little desolate world. When the changes in the little desolate world stopped, the 9 kings led the remaining humans into the little desolate world. A new world often contained great opportunities. Once the human race entered, they would welcome a period of rapid development. Moreover, when Feng Zichen was splitting open the sky and earth, the masters of the human tribe were watching from the sidelines. Witnessing the process of splitting open the sky with their own eyes would bring them great benefits. Tai Jingxian would definitely be able to improve his cultivation by a small step after seeing it. Cultivators who were half a step away from the Daluo Jingxian realm might be able to find a chance to attain the Dao from it. And the 9 kings would obtain the greatest benefits. Perhaps it would not be long before they could become the real Daluo Jingxian. In short, the higher one's cultivation level, the greater the benefits from this creation of heaven and earth. Phew! In that case I can rest assured. In the depths of the void, Feng Zichen left a divine will behind. After seeing the human race enter the little desolate world, he could not help but heave a sigh of relief. Then, he continued to lurk and silently watched the little desolate world. To Feng Zichen, the little desolate world was not as simple as a habitat that he created for the human race. It also had a greater significance. That was to help him understand the primordial world. The operation of the little desolate world was extremely similar to the operation of the primordial world. Although it lacked many mysteries, one could understand the whole body by looking at a feather. From the similarities, it was enough for Feng Zichen to deduce some mysteries about the primordial world. For example, how did the primordial world absorb the chaos aura from the chaos outside the realm, and how did it transform it into the connate aura? For example, how many changes did Zhouxing have? What kind of effect did they play when the primordial world transformed the chaos aura? Also, how did the great cycle of heaven and earth work? Feng Zichen wanted to know about all of these. Knowing these, whether it was comprehending the laws of heaven and earth or deducing divine abilities and array formations, it would have immeasurable benefits. Moreover, these were all resources for achieving the Tao. How could Feng Zichen give up so easily? Outside the sun god restriction, the 12 ancestral shamans gathered together. 1,000 years after the war between humans and demons, the 11 ancestral shamans finally came out of seclusion. Unfortunately, it was all too late. Today, they came here to try and see if they could break the sun god restriction and save Feng Zichen. The ancestral shamans did not care much about the death of humans. But they cared a lot about Feng Zichen. Sigh! This seal is so powerful. The 12 ancestral shamans tried for a long time outside, but they could not do anything to the seal. It was probably because they found that if they wanted to break the seal here, they had to cut off the connection between this place and the sunstar. It was not difficult to cut off the star power. The difficult part was how to bypass the demons and cut off the star power. The only way now is to defeat the demons and take the sunstar to save the shamans. Candle Dragon thought for a moment and came up with an idea. Yes, this method works. The demons bullied the shamans of our race while we were in seclusion. They really deserve to die. When 13 cultivates to the sage-to-be realm, we will completely remove the demons from the primordial world. Zhurong was the most angry and said directly. The 13 ancestral shamans were just born, and their cultivation was only at the realm of Daluo Jingxian. They were still too weak. Only when they reached the sage-to-be realm could they join forces with the other ancestral shamans to set up the 12 divine beings killing formation. As the descendants of Pangu, the shamans were blessed by the heavens, and the restrictions of the heavenly Tao were useless to them. Even if they did not go through the tribulation, they could still cultivate to the sage-to-be realm. Moreover, the shamans walked the path of using strength to prove their Tao, so they would not be restricted by the heavenly Tao. At this moment, the demons were not idle either. They were refining the Wu-killing sword. They were waiting for the sword to be refined so that they could kill the shamans. The final battle between the shamans and the demons was not far away. When the 13 ancestral shamans became sage-to-be, or when the demons refined the Wu-killing sword, it would explode. Of course, with the temperament of the heavenly Tao, it was very likely that both would be completed at the same time. Whoosh! Suddenly, a rain of blood fell in the primordial world. The great Tao was wailing. Heaven and earth were filled with sadness. It was as if they were sad about the fall of a great being. The great Taoist priests, Pangu and the Zichen clan had fallen. This was the news that the great divines had obtained from the sorrowful intent. How can this be? At this moment, everyone was shocked. Even the demons were no exception. How could Feng Zichen have fallen all of a sudden? A conspiracy, an absolute conspiracy. All the great divine beings knew that although the demon clan's seal was powerful, it could only trap Feng Zichen. It was impossible to kill him. However, he had fallen at this moment. There was definitely something wrong with this. They just did not know what the great Taoist priests was planning. Humph! No matter what kind of scheme you have, it's useless if you can't get out of the sun god restriction. After the initial shock, Tai Yi calmed down. The sun god restriction was extremely powerful. Even if Feng Zichen was resurrected, as long as the seal was not broken, he would not be able to escape. He would be resurrected wherever he died. What was the use of any scheme if he could not get out? Although he thought so, in Tai Yi's heart, he still vaguely felt that something was wrong. However, the final battle between the liches and demons was about to arrive, and he did not have the extra energy to deal with this matter. He could only hide it in his heart and make plans another day. What's going on? Looking at the sun god restriction, the ancestral shaman had an inexplicable expression. Sister, where's fellow Taoist Fengdu? Suddenly, Di Jiang asked Hutu. Fengdu was the incarnation of Feng Zichen. Both Hutu and Di Jiang knew about this. Therefore, if they wanted to know what had happened to Feng Zichen, they should ask him. Chapter 500. I don't know either. Why don't we go to the netherworld and ask him face to face? After thinking for a while, Hutu replied. Ever since the demons attacked the humans, Fengdu had become mysterious, as if it was planning something. However, Hutu was not very clear about what it was doing. That's true. As he spoke, he ignored the puzzled gazes of the other ancestral magi and walked towards the netherworld with Hutu. What's going on? Aren't we going to save the magi? Why are we suddenly going to the netherworld? Although the ancestral magi were puzzled, they could not stay here since Di Jiang and Hutu had left. They hurriedly chased after them. On the other hand, the candle dragon's eyes lit up as if he had guessed something. However, he did not say anything and acted as if nothing had happened. He followed the other ancestral magi to the netherworld. Netherworld. Fengdu. Ghost Emperor Palace. With the end of the war between humans and demons, the originally quiet Ghost Emperor Palace suddenly erupted with fluctuations. Innate true spirit fragments were pulled over by an inexplicable force and floated in the Ghost Emperor Palace. These broken innate true spirits were all human experts who had died in battle. They were brought over by the Ghost Emperor of Fengdu with his great divine ability. They were all heroes of the human race. How could Feng Zichen let them die? Of course he had to save them. The Ghost Emperor of Fengdu was one of the supreme rulers of the netherworld. He controlled the power of the Wheel of Life and Death. As for the path of reincarnation, Feng Zichen also had a deep understanding of it. In terms of strength, he was one of the best in the primordial world. Moreover, before the 6 paths of reincarnation were established, Feng Zichen had once helped the reincarnation disc to increase his authority, allowing his power to spread throughout the 3,000 upper-class worlds. In return, Feng Zichen unexpectedly obtained a portion of the 6 paths of reincarnation disc. Although this bit of power was far from being comparable to Hutu, it was enough for him to mobilize the power of the 6 paths of reincarnation disc. Gather. With a thought, Feng Zichen used his great divine ability to draw the 6 paths of reincarnation disc. Instantly, the power of reincarnation surged out and reformed the shattered connate true spirits of the humans. The Tao of reincarnation contained a myriad of things. It was a huge cycle that contained time and space, the cycle of life and death, the cycle of success and failure, destruction and rebirth. Everything in the world was within it. The power of reincarnation was so great. It was the strongest power under the great Tao. Transcending him, there was no beginning and no end. This was the great Tao and this was eternity. There was no beginning, no end. Eternity was the achievement of the great Tao. With such a mighty power, regrowing the innate true spirit was a piece of cake. Very good. Looking at the complete innate true spirits in front of him, Feng Zichen smiled in satisfaction. But it was a pity. Feng Zichen's understanding of the path of reincarnation had clearly not reached the peak. Although the innate true spirits of these human experts had reformed, their intelligence had yet to recover. They were all in a daze. This was already quite good. After the innate true spirit was reunited, after the cycle of reincarnation, he would still be himself and would not become another living being. If he could reap the fruit, he might be able to regain his original self. Open! At Feng Zichen's command, The 6 paths of reincarnation disc quietly rotated. A mighty power descended and opened up a huge reincarnation passage in the Ghost Emperor Palace. Rumble! The illusory image of the 3,000 worlds appeared, looming at the end of the reincarnation passage. Yes, this reincarnation passage did not lead to the primitive world, but to the 3,000 worlds. The reason why the 6 paths of reincarnation disc could control the reincarnation of the 3,000 worlds was entirely because of Feng Zichen. Therefore, the reincarnation authority that he controlled corresponded to this part of the 3,000 worlds. In other words, in this era where the 3,000 worlds were isolated from the primitive world, Feng Zichen could let some living beings reincarnate into the 3,000 worlds through the 6 paths of reincarnation disc. Of course, he could only let the unconscious true spirits go over. He could not do anything else. Go! Whether you can return in the future depends on your own fortune. After a moment of silence, Feng Zichen first took out some of the black-yellow merits that he had accumulated and injected them into the bodies of the innate true spirits. Then, he waved his hand and sent them into the reincarnation passage. This was all that Feng Zichen could do for them. With the protection of these merits, they could avoid many hardships in the future. It was not that he did not want to reincarnate these people in the primitive world, but the primitive world was too dangerous now. The decisive battle between liches and demons would break out at any time, and the whole primitive world would be affected. Heaven and earth were in danger of being destroyed, and the world was in danger of being destroyed. At that time, even the Tai Jingxian would not be able to protect themselves. If these human masters reincarnated into the primitive world, wouldn't they be courting death? Therefore, it was better to leave. Whoosh! After taking away those innate true spirits, the reincarnation power slowly retreated, and the Ghost Emperor Palace returned to peace. But this change was not over yet. Wisps of purple-black murderous aura suddenly rose from Feng Zichen's body, making him look abnormally demonic. The aura on his body also underwent a huge change when this wisp of purple-black murderous aura appeared. From the previous majestic and domineering, it became tyrannical and fierce. It was like a demon god. That purple-black murderous aura was the strongest chaotic murderous aura in the world, the heavenly divine murderous aura. It was also one of Feng Zichen's trump cards. Even if the Daluo Jingxian touched it, he would be entangled with the murderous aura and die. It was extremely ruthless. It was precisely because of this that he had never appeared in the world since he was refined. This supernatural power was too harmful to the harmony of heaven and earth. It was even more demonic than the demonic path. As a righteous figure, how could Feng Zichen use it? It was not that he did not want to use it, but he had improved too quickly. Originally, the heavenly divine murderous aura could make him invincible in the realm of the Daluo. However, after he became the Daluo Jingxian, he became invincible. There was no need for the heavenly divine murderous aura. His strength had improved too quickly, so much so that the level of his supernatural power could not keep up. This led to the fact that those of low realms could be destroyed with a flick of his finger. There was no need for the heavenly divine murderous aura. Those of high realms could not be dealt with by the heavenly divine murderous aura. Thus, Feng Zichen did not use it. He would keep it for future attacks. However, in order to increase the strength of the wizard tribe, he would use this supreme supernatural power today. Rumble! More and more heavenly divine murderous aura surged out of Feng Zichen's body, gradually forming a long river of murderous aura. It was vast and mighty, stirring the surrounding void into pieces. Even the Ghost Emperor Palace was affected. Under the erosion of the heavenly divine murderous aura, it was silently destroyed. However, Feng Zichen did not care at all. At this moment, he was visualizing the 12 ancestors of the wizard tribe in his heart with all his might, visualizing their charm, details, structure, one by one. Whoosh! Suddenly, the long river of murderous aura boiled as if something was about to walk out of it. Chapter 501. Roar! In the depths of the river of evil aura, 12 enormous phantoms of demonic gods appeared. They seemed to have crossed the endless time and space, breaking the barrier between illusion and reality. Gradually, they turned from illusion to reality and walked out from the depths of the river of evil aura. The 12 ancestors of sorcerers. These 12 gigantic demons looked exactly the same as the 12 ancestors of sorcerers. They were visualized by Feng Zichen. Buzz buzz buzz. Looking at the 12 ancestors of sorcerers in front of him, Feng Zichen took out a drop of purple blood. In an instant, Heaven and earth trembled and throbbed inexplicably, as if they were excited. Even the shadows of the 12 ancestors of sorcerers, who had no intelligence, seemed to have some fluctuations when the drop of purple blood appeared. To be precise, the drop of purple blood was not blood, but a spinal cord. Panga's spinal cord. It was born in Mount Bujo. Mount Bujo was formed by Panga's spinal cord. Naturally, there was Panga's remaining spinal cord in it. However, the Panga's spinal cord was not found by Feng Zichen, but was given to him by the sorcerer tribe. Countless years ago, the 12 ancestors of sorcerers worshipped Pangu under Mount Bujo and announced the establishment of the sorcerer tribe. Somehow, Panga's remaining will sensed it and took some Pangu's spinal cord from the depths of Mount Bujo and gave it to the sorcerer tribe. It was also because of this that the sorcerer tribe could suppress all the tribes in the untainted land and become the strongest tribe in the world. Although the blood marrow was not as precious as the blood essence, the power it contained was far more than Panga's blood. The sorcerer tribe had refined Panga's spinal cord. It was difficult for them not to be powerful. Who in the untainted land could be compared to them? The Panga's spinal cord that Feng Zichen had was collected by the ancestors of sorcerers at that time. He wanted to go to Mount Bujo to look for it, but he did not have the fate to do so. He could not find it at all. In the past, when the sorcerer tribe obtained Panga's spinal cord from Mount Bujo, it attracted a large group of great divine abilities to search for it. Unfortunately, although they did find a few connate spiritual treasures, they did not find anything in Pangu's spinal cord. Therefore, everyone thought that Pangu's spinal cord had been given to the shaman tribe by Pangu. To be honest, with his identity as a magus, the Magi had given Feng Zichen many good things. This was full of friendship. Regardless of how the sorcerer tribe treated the human tribe, they treated Feng Zichen well. Come! Feng Zichen stretched out his hand and hooked, capturing the 12 ancestors of sorcery that he had visualized and fusing them into the spinal cord of the Pangu before him. The 12 ancestors of sorcery were formed from Panga's blood and essence. They came from the same source as Panga's spinal cord. Naturally, there was no barrier between them and they quickly became one. Great Way Furnace. After that, Feng Zichen used the Great Way Furnace and took away Panga's spinal cord. He used the method of refining weapons and started to refine it. During this process, Feng Zichen even released the Panga's mark on his body and verified it with Panga's spinal cord. Even the Hongmeng Daozhong, which did not appear during the Great War between the human tribe and the demon tribe, was taken out by Feng Zichen and constantly released the Hongmeng's qi. Feng Zichen was refining weapons. It was a legendary magic treasure, the 12 Capital Divine Banner. This was the treasure that the sorcerer tribe had refined after the 12 ancestors of sorcery had fallen in Feng Zichen's previous life. The 12 Capital Divine Banner was the formation flag of the 12 Capital Divine Wraith Formation. With it, even without the 12 ancestors of sorcery, the sorcerer tribe could still set up the 12 Capital Divine Wraith Formation. Of course, this treasure had another function, which was to gather the connate true spirits that the 12 ancestors of sorcery had scattered between heaven and earth to help them resurrect. Of course, that was in his previous life. Now that the 12 Capital Divine Banner had been refined by Feng Zichen, its function was, of course, enhanced. The most important function of this treasure was to enhance the power of the 12 Capital Divine Wraith Formation. Boom! After 1,000 years, the Great Way Furnace suddenly exploded, and a monstrous evil spirit gushed out, completely destroying the already damaged Ghost Emperor Palace. However, Feng Zichen did not care about all of this. His mind was focused on the center of the evil spirit. There was a purple-black flag, about 3 feet and 6 inches in size. The flag's edge was covered with mysterious lines, and in the center was the figure of a stalwart man. It was the great Taoist priest Pangu. This treasure was the Panga's heavenly banner. Boom! As soon as the heavenly banner appeared, before it could display its power, it shattered and turned into 12 small flags. On each flag, the figures of the 12 ancestors of sorcery were imprinted. This was the 12 ancestors of sorcery's heavenly banner. What is this? Di Jiang looked at the heavenly banner in his hand and asked curiously. Behind him, the other 11 ancestors of sorcery, each had a heavenly banner in their hands. When the 12 ancestors of sorcery's heavenly banner was born, something coincidental happened, and the 12 ancestors of sorcery just happened to arrive. As a result, the 12 heavenly banners sensed the aura of the same origin and flew directly to the 12 ancestors of sorcery. This is the heavenly banner. It's a magic treasure that I specially refined for the ancestors of sorcery. At this time, Feng Zichen walked over and said with a smile. The 12 ancestors of sorcery had dominated the untainted land for many years and relied on their physical bodies to conquer the world. They did not have any suitable weapons, so Feng Zichen refined the 12 heavenly banners to make weapons for them. Weapons? This treasure is very good. I like it very much, Zhurong said casually as he waved the heavenly banner in his hand. The other ancestors of sorcery did the same. Speaking of which, the 12 heavenly divine banner was not of a high level. It was barely at the connate level, and was not even a connate numinous treasure. It was the lowest level of connate dharma treasure. Even the Daluo Jinxian would not use a magic weapon of this level, let alone an existence like the ancestor of sorcerer. It was too embarrassing. Only Tai Jinxian cultivators would use innate magic treasures. However, the 12 heavenly divine banners were different. First of all, they were of the same origin as the 12 ancestors of sorcery, and were equivalent to a part of the ancestors of sorcery. For this reason, even though the level of the 12 heavenly divine banner was very low, the ancestral sorcerer was very fond of it. Secondly, Feng Zichen had used Pangu's spinal cord and Hongming's qi as the main materials to create the 12 divine banners. They had unlimited possibilities. If the 12 ancestors of sorcerers used their own blood and great Tao to baptize the 12 capital divine banner day and night, in that case, the level of the 12 heavenly divine banners would gradually increase, and it would not be impossible for it to become a primordial treasure. Even if they perished, they could rely on the capital heaven divine banner to gather their innate true spirits and return. This point. When the 12 ancestors of sorcery first obtained the capital heaven divine banner, they naturally knew about it. Therefore, the ancestors of sorcery liked the capital heaven divine banner so much. Thank you, fellow Taoist. After accepting the capital heaven divine banner, the 12 ancestors of sorcery thanked Feng Zichen. Fellow Taoist, what do you think about the fall of the human emperor? After the greetings, Di Jiang began to talk about serious matters. The human emperor is the great Taoist priests. He is destined to become the primordial Daluo Jinxian. As long as the primordial world is not destroyed, he will not truly die. He must have some plans for his sudden fall. We'll just wait and see. If he needs help, he will naturally contact you. After thinking for a while, Feng Zichen said. His meaning was very simple. The sorcerer tribe did not have to worry about this matter. That's true. Di Jiang nodded, obviously understanding Feng Zichen's meaning. Then we'll take our leave. Since his goal had been achieved, Di Jiang did not intend to stay here. After saying goodbye, he left with the other ancestors of sorcery. The final battle between the liches and demons was imminent. The sorcerer tribe still had a lot of things waiting for him to deal with. If it were not for Feng Zichen, he would not have left the sorcerer tribe at all. In the blink of an eye, the world had changed. At this time, 10,000 years had passed since the great battle between humans and demons. On this day, a powerful aura suddenly rose from the direction of the sorcerer tribe, shaking the long river of time and space. The 13 ancestors of sorcerer tribe had finally entered the Sage-to-Be realm. At the same time, the demon tribe was also jubilant. After 10,000 years, the witch-killing sword was finally refined. Children, follow me to attack the heavenly court and slaughter the demon tribe. Under Di Jiang's order, the sorcerer tribe army set off and charged towards the heaven realm. On the other side, the demon tribe was not to be outdone. The sorcerer tribe is tyrannical and does not respect the heavenly Tao. It is the great evil of the primordial world. Today, the demon tribe, in accordance with the will of heaven, destroy the sorcerer tribe and eliminate evil for the primordial world. The final battle between the liches and demons had begun. Countless powerful figures were shocked and hurriedly closed their doors for fear of being involved. The 12 ancestors of sorcerer tribe did not wait for the sorcerer tribe army to arrive, and directly charged into the boundless starry sky. Little bird, your grandpa Zhu Rong is here. Come out and die. Zhu Rong shouted as soon as he arrived at the boundless starry sky. Bastard! Damn it! Hearing that, Di Jun and Tai Kuanping's faces darkened. Little bird, who are you scolding? Zhu Rong, don't try to win a battle of words. Today, I will let you take the 12 ancestors of sorcerer tribe. Everyone, set up the formation. Heavenly Cycle Stars formation, rise. As soon as he finished speaking, the heavenly cycle demons took their positions. Zhouxing rotated together and a huge star was formed, covering the 12 ancestors of Sorcerer tribe. One of the top 3 formations in the Untainted Land, the Heavenly Cycle Stars formation. Haha. Let's set up the formation too. 12 Capital God Banner Formation. Rise. With a loud laugh, the 12 ancestors of Sorcerer tribe formed a Dao seal and merged into one, turning into a majestic giant. Panga's physical body. A majestic aura was emitted from his body, causing heaven and earth to tremble and create an incomparable phenomenon. However, compared to the previous time when Panga's physical body appeared, this time, the commotion caused by Panga's physical body was much smaller. Obviously, his strength was not as strong as before. Although Hutu was not around, it was partly because of this. But most importantly, it was because when the reincarnation was opened, Panga's remaining strength was all used up. As a result, Panga's physical body could not absorb the power that Pangu had scattered in the Untainted Land. Therefore, Panga's physical body was not as strong as before. Good. Without Hutu, the power of the 12 Capital God Wraith formation is indeed much weaker. Sensing the aura emitted by Panga's physical body, the demon tribe was excited. Panga's physical body was really weak. Previously, in front of Panga's physical body, Donghuang Tai did not dare to take out the Bell of Chaos for fear that it would be snatched away. But now, there was nothing to worry about. Clang! With that thought in mind, Tai took out the Bell of Chaos and smashed it at Panga's physical body. Although the ancestral sorcerer punched the Bell of Chaos back, a blood-red mark clearly appeared on Panga's fist. Haha! Sorcerer tribe, you have no skills. Seeing this scene, the demon tribe was even more excited. Humph! Connate cardinal treasure? Our sorcerer tribe has one too. With a cold snort, the 12 ancestors of Sorcerer took out the geomancy map of the primordial land. Immediately, a magnificent mountain and river appeared, turning into a blurry Dao shadow and merging into Panga's physical body. The geomancy map of the primordial land could trace back to its origin and evolve into Pangu's Dao shadow. Roar! With this help, Panga's physical body's aura increased greatly. He waved his fist and charged towards Dijun. Kill! The demon tribe was not afraid. He directly rode Zhouxing and charged towards Panga's physical body, wanting to kill him. Chapter 502. Boom boom boom. The battle between the 2 top formations of the Untainted Land caused too much damage. The entire starry sky was shaking. Stars fell from the starry sky and smashed into the Untainted Land. The land was riddled with holes and countless innocent creatures were affected. Die! The battle lasted for hundreds of years. The battle between the liches and demons had reached its climax. The demon clan controlled the cosmic stars formation and the 12 capital heaven divine fiends formed by the Grand Sorcerer. At this moment, the countless ancient stars in the Zhouxing formation shook together. Starlight shone on the Untainted Land. A terrifying power exploded and shattered Panga's body. The 12 Grand Sorcerer vomited blood. At this moment, the 12 capital heaven divine fiends of the Wizard clan had been broken. However, after breaking the Great 12 Citadel Divine Wraith formation, the massive Heavenly Cycle Star formation didn't gain any benefits. A huge backlash struck, causing the massive Heavenly Cycle Star formation to crumble. The demon immortals controlling the formation also suffered from the recoil and were seriously injured. However, this was not the most serious thing. With the collapse of the Cosmic Stars formation, other than the Moon Star and the Sun Star, the other Zhouxing formation and countless ancient stars all suffered unimaginable damage and began to collapse. Fragments, along with the stars, fell toward the Untainted Land. For a moment, the stars fell like rain. The Untainted Land ushered in a catastrophe. Countless creatures turned into ashes. The world was full of doomsday scenes. In such a terrifying scene, even the great mediums did not dare to go out casually. They quickly activated the protective mountain formation and guarded the mountain gate firmly, afraid of being affected by the falling stars. Kill! After a shocking battle, both the liches and demons were injured. Even the clan formation was broken at the same time and could not be used in a short time. However, their combat power was still there. Without any hesitation, the top experts from both sides pounced on each other almost at the same time. Clang! Tai relied on his high cultivation and used the Bell of Chaos to attack Wu Shisan, who had the weakest cultivation. Wu Shisan was only a beginner sage to be. He could barely compete with the demon saint of the demon clan by relying on the 12 capital heaven divine fiends formation. Now that the formation was broken, he was instantly beaten back to his original form. Therefore, how could Wu Shisan, who was at the beginner sage to be, defeat Tai, who was at the primordial chaos Daluo Jinxian realm? Ah! A pitiful cry rang out and Wu Shisan was reduced to dust by the bell of primal chaos. Instant kill. Wu Shisan, an early-stage quasi-saint, had been killed by Tai in one move. Hiss! Seeing this, all the powerful divines in the untainted land were so shocked that they took a deep breath. Primordial chaos Daluo Jinxian was too strong. Wu Shisan had fallen too quickly. He was so fast that before the other ancestral sorcerers could react, he was killed by Tai. By the time the rest of the ancestral sorcerers reacted, it was already too late to save them. 13. The rest of the ancestor sorcerers howled and were about to attack Tai. But at this moment, Di Jun made his move. Dang! With that, the Wu slaughtering sword was unsheathed. A beam of blood-red light flashed past, slicing through space and ruthlessly slashing the body of the poison ancestral shaman, Shi Bai Shi. The Shebi corpse was stunned for a moment, his eyes filled with confusion. Then, he raised his hand and pointed at Di Jun, as if he wanted to say something. But before he could say anything, his body was strangely split into two halves and returned to the world. The Shebi corpse was dead. He had been killed by Di Jun in one move. This was even more shocking than Tai killing Wu Shisan in one move. After all, Wu Shisan was only an early-stage quasi-saint. There were not many people in the untainted land who could kill him in one move, but there were still some. But the Shebi corpse was different. He was a perfected quasi-saint, almost standing at the peak of the untainted land. There were many who could defeat him, but not many could kill him, let alone kill him in one move. This was something that even a saint could not do. But Di Jun had done it. Everyone was shocked and looked at Di Jun, wanting to know what realm he had stepped into to have such power. He was still a half-step primordial chaos. Although he was strong, he was not particularly strong. It's that sword. It can restrain the ancestral sorcerers. In the blink of an eye, everyone found the key to Di Jun's killing of the Shebi corpse, the Wu slaughtering sword. The sorcerer race is in trouble. The sudden change changed the situation of the liches and demons, and it also affected the heart of the great mystical power. The netherworld. With the death of the Shebi corpse, Huda finally could not sit still. She wanted to walk out of the reincarnation palace and charge to the battlefield to help the sorcerer race. But, fellow Taoist Hutu, please wait. 30,000 miles of purple gas filled the air. The Grand Pure One rode over on an ox and blocked Hutu's path. The life and death of the liches and demons battle depends on the will of the heavens. Fellow Taoist, please don't interfere. The Grand Pure One bowed to Hutu and said expressionlessly. The saint preached on behalf of the heavens and acted with the will of the heavens. He had to stop anyone who dared to violate the heavenly Tao. And it was the will of the heavens for the liches and demons to perish together. Anyone who dared to interfere with this would be the enemy of the heavenly Tao and the saint. You're courting death. Knowing the purpose of the Grand Pure One's visit, Huta did not waste any time and directly charged over. Rumble! The phantom of the 6 paths of reincarnation appeared behind Hutu and released the power to turn life and death. It was terrifying. That was all the power of the 6 paths of reincarnation that Hutu could mobilize after leaving the netherworld. Don't underestimate this phantom. With the level of the 6 paths of reincarnation, even a phantom could erupt with the power of a connate cardinal treasure. Go! The power of reincarnation was mysterious and unfathomable. The saint of Taiji did not dare to underestimate it. He hurriedly took out the Taiji painting and fought with Hutu. Shebi corpse. Seeing Shebi corpse die, the eyes of the other ancestral magi turned red. Shebi corpse was not like Wu Shisan. He was the orthodox ancestral magi and had grown up with the other ancestral magi. They had endless years of friendship. Di Jun, I want you dead. Di Jiang said with hatred. Terrifying power spread out, and even the great Tao was distorted. Swoosh! Space suddenly became chaotic, and Di Jiang's figure blurred. Then, countless Di Jiangs appeared and surrounded Di Jun, attacking him at the same time. These figures were all real. Di Jiang folded space and turned into thousands of them, attacking Di Jun at the same time. Tai, give me your life. Tian Wu, Xian Ming, Chong Liang, Shizi, Wind, Rain, Thunder, and Lightning walked out and attacked Tai together. Wind, rain, thunder, and lightning gathered together, erupting with the power of a chaos prime. They activated the chaos geomancy painting and fought fiercely with Tai. Taoist Fushi, please. Candle Joeen stepped forward and faced Fushi. Both of them were half-step primordial chaos existences. When they fought, it could be said that they were evenly matched. It was difficult to separate them from each other. Then, Gonggong, the water ancestral magi, attacked Kuanpeng. Zhurong, the fire ancestral magi, faced Shi He. Zhurong, the gold ancestral magi, and the wood ancestral magi also found their opponents. A chaotic battle between pre-saints broke out. At the same time, the battle between the great magi and the demon god began. The chaotic battle between nearly 10,000 golden immortals of the great all-embracing heaven and dozens of sage-to-be was so terrifying that it directly tore the heaven realm apart. Even the chaos geomancy was affected. Huge cracks appeared, as if it was about to fall apart. The longer the battle lasted, the greater the destructive power it would cause. Before long, the entire void was shattered. Earth, fire, water, and wind surged, and destructive energy overflowed, interweaving into destructive storms. The world was already showing signs of instability. Di Jiang. Today, let's settle this once and for all. After another fight, Di Jun transformed into a huge Emperor Dharma idol and began to advance. That's right. At this moment, Di Jun was about to break through and become a Chaos Daluo Jinxian. Heaven and earth shook, and all kinds of strange phenomena appeared, crowding toward Di Jun. Haha, I'm not afraid of you. Seeing this, Di Jiang laughed and began to break through as well. In fact, Di Jiang had shown signs of breaking through tens of thousands of years ago. He was the eldest son of Pangu. He had extraordinary comprehension and great luck. In addition, he had cultivated the path of gods and demons. He had long understood the path ahead and had hopes of attaining Tao. However, in order to set up the 12 capital heaven divine killing formation, Di Jiang suppressed his desire to break through and delayed it. But now, the 12 capital heaven divine killing formation had been broken. He had nothing to worry about and began to break through. Whoosh! Panga's blood was gushing, making a raging sound. That was the blood being purified. It was constantly shedding the tribulation energy and transforming into the purest Panga blood. When the ancestral shaman attained the Tao, his bloodline underwent a metamorphosis and naturally transformed into the purest Panga bloodline. Because of this, Grand Magi who had attained Tao could not join forces with those who had not attained Tao to set up the 7 capital heaven divine killing formation. Because the Grand Magi who had not attained Tao had impure Panga blood and were far inferior to Grand Magi who had attained Tao. Buzz buzz buzz. The path of space made a huge buzzing sound and resonated with Di Jiang. A huge phantom of a demon god appeared behind Di Jiang as if the path of space had descended. Its appearance was exactly the same as Di Jiang's. The path chosen by the 12 Grand Magi was different from Feng Zichen's. As early as when they were born, Pangu had chosen a path for them. As long as they followed that path, they would definitely achieve extraordinary results. Therefore, the primordial chaos of the 12 Grand Magi was not reversing Pangu's physical body, but improving themselves. Turning themselves into Tao. Attaining Tao was attaining Tao, oneself was Tao. 2 shocking lights appeared. Di Jun and Di Jiang transcended the river of time and space at the same time and attained the primordial chaos Daluo Jinxian realm. From now on, the true spirit was boundless and immeasurable. The sun and moon decayed, but I was immortal. This was true freedom, true freedom. Kill! As soon as the two broke through, they did not care about experiencing the changes in their bodies and crazily attacked each other. Di Jun kept waving the Wu slaughtering sword, trying to destroy Di Jiang's physical body. But unfortunately, Di Jiang's body merged with the void. He seemed to be everywhere, but also seemed to be nowhere. No matter how Di Jun attacked, he could not hurt him. How can this be? Di Jun and Di Jiang's breakthrough was completely beyond the saints' expectations. Chapter 503. How could they have broken through? It was a mess. It was all a mess. Everyone's plan was disrupted with Di Jun and Di Jiang's breakthroughs. The situation of the Great Shaman-Demon War had changed like never before, and the outcome was unknown. As time passed, the demon demi-saint fighting Gomong was gradually losing. He was forced into a desperate situation and was about to die. Let's die together. Either way he would die. The demi-saint made up his mind and rushed to Gomong's side, self-destructing to drag him down with him. Boom! A dazzling light appeared like the sun, so blinding that it was hard to open one's eyes. When the light subsided, the wood ancestor which Gomong and the demi-saint of the demon race had all turned into nothingness. Everything had disappeared. Wood wizard Gomong had died. Ah! Gomong! Demons, you deserve to die. Perhaps stimulated by Gomong's death, the demi-saint's attacks became more ferocious. However, the demons were not to be trifled with. Seeing that he was no match for his opponent, he pulled his opponent along with him and self-detonated, just like the demi-saint from before. Boom! Boom! 2 more explosions sounded. 2 demi-saints of the demon demi-saints were dragged down with them. Metal wizard Rusho had died. Fire wizard Zhurong had died. Shiha! At this time, Di Jun suddenly went crazy and desperately attacked Di Jiang. Because Zhurong's enemy was Shiha. Shiha had self-destructed just now, taking Zhurong with her. Di Jun went crazy. Di Jiang went crazy as well. In the blink of an eye, 3 demi-saints had died. Di Jiang's pain was worse than Di Jun's. Fushi, Candle Dragon, let's die together. On the other side, Fushi and the Candle Dragon were also fighting crazily. They both self-destructed at the same time, trying to take each other down with them. Boom! The self-destruction of 2 half-step primordial chaos experts was extremely powerful. The Heaven Realm, which was close to the explosion, was riddled with holes on the spot. It was not far from collapse. As the main battlefield, the boundless starry sky could no longer withstand this huge force and collapsed. Beyond the boundless starry sky was the chaos beyond the heavens. Now that the boundless starry sky had shattered, the primal chaos chi from the primal chaos beyond the heavens was no longer obstructed. It immediately poured down, wanting to destroy everything and recreate the primal chaos. Brother! With Fushi dead, Nuwa was filled with hatred. She raised the cauldron of heaven and earth and was about to smash it towards the sorcerer tribe. However, at that moment, the Grand Pure One, who was fighting the Lady of Earth, suddenly stopped and turned around to return to Mount Shouyang. When Huta saw this, she did not chase after them. Instead, she went to Jinxiu Heaven and confronted Nuwa from afar. Not good. Kuan Peng, who was fighting against Gong Gong, could not help but feel anxious when he saw the sage-to-be fall one after another. He could not help but want to leave. Unlike other demi-saints, he was not loyal to the demon race. Speaking of which, Kuan Peng still has a grudge against Di Jun. Firstly, when they were in the Purple Cloud Palace, Di Jun once spoke ill of him, which was regarded as the shame of his life by Kuan Peng. Secondly, he was originally the Lord of the North Sea, and his life was very comfortable. However, he was forced by Di Jun to join the demon race, so he was naturally dissatisfied. Thirdly, it was fine if he joined the demon race. However, Di Jun was afraid that Kuan Peng would share his power. He only gave him a name and not power, leaving Kuan Peng as a demon master without an army. With all these reasons, it would be strange if Kuan Peng could be of one mind with Di Jun. His foundation had always been in the North Sea, not the demon race. With the thought of leaving in his heart, Kuan Peng's hot blood gradually faded. He no longer fought with Gong Gong, but looked for an opportunity to leave. Suddenly, Kuan Peng's eyes lit up. What did he see? The supreme grade innate spirit treasure. He too, Luo Shu. This Dharma treasure was floating quietly in the starry sky in front of him, and it could be swept away by the chaotic aura at any time. As Di Jun's lifelong spiritual treasure, he too, Luo Shu, should be in Di Jun's hands. However, it was too severely injured, causing the mark left on it by Di Jun to be mostly destroyed. That's right, it was severely injured. The eye of the heavenly cycle star formation was not the sun star or the bell of chaos, but he too, Luo Shu. As a result, the heavenly cycle star formation collapsed, and he too, Luo Shu, suffered the greatest backlash. It was almost on the verge of shattering, and only then did it lose contact with Di Jun. Let's go. With a thought, Kuan Peng transformed into a great Peng. With a flap of his wings, He swept up He Tu, Luo Shu, and ran away. The fastest speed in the world was not a joke. Among the people present, except for Di Jiang, no one could catch up with him. Kuan-Pang Yu. Seeing Kuan-Peng's actions, Di Jun was so angry that he almost vomited blood. This person really deserved to die. Pooh! Di Jun spat out a mouthful of blood. It was not because of Kuan-Pang, but because of Di Jiang. It was during this time that he was absent-minded that he was beaten twice by Di Jiang and suffered serious injuries. Tai Yi Dai. Kuan-Peng's sudden escape caused Gong Gong, who was fighting him, to be at a loss. But soon, he came to his senses and roared as he charged toward Tai Yi. Except for the beginning, the 4 ancestral sorcerers had been suppressed by Tai Yi for the rest of the time. They were no match for him at all. Seeing that the 4 of them were about to be killed by Tai Yi, Gong Gong suddenly rushed over to help. The pressure on the 4 of them was greatly reduced, and they fought with Tai Yi again. The 5 ancestral sorcerers worked together to activate the geomancy map of the primordial world, exerting its power to the maximum. It actually attracted the support of the primordial world, faintly showing signs of suppressing Tai Yi. Previously, Tai Yi might have been able to borrow the power of Zhouxing to counterattack. But now, the boundless starry sky had been destroyed, and the Zhouxing had become tattered. Tai Yi could not borrow any power at all. Rumble! The battle was still going on. After the baptism of hatred, both sides had no scruples at all. It was as if they were going to perish together. As a result, the primordial world was in trouble. The first to be affected was the Heaven Realm. The Heaven Realm, which was already on the verge of collapse, finally could not hold on. It shattered into pieces and fell down. What was below the Heaven Realm? It was the backbone of the world, Mount Buzhou. Rumble! Pieces of the Heaven Realm's fragments fell and smashed onto Mount Buzhou's body, causing great damage to it. The power of each piece of the Heaven Realm's fragment falling was not weaker than the full-strength attack of a saint. The power of thousands of fragments falling down could be imagined. If it was the Mount Buzhou of the past, it would naturally not be afraid. This bit of attack was like a drizzle. It was completely harmless and could not cause any harm to it. But the current Mount Buzhou could not do it. It, who had been corroded by the resentment of the Chaos Fiend God for many years, had long been strong on the outside but weak on the inside. Its power was not as strong as before, and it would probably not be able to withstand the fall of the Heaven Realm. The destruction of the Heaven Realm also affected the earth. Volcanoes erupted one after another, and huge mountains collapsed one after another. Countless cracks appeared on the earth like porcelain. Rivers and lakes surged, drowning the earth. The sea also surged endlessly, invading the land. Even if the experts of the 5 Khanate races worked together and suppressed with all their strength, they could not stop the outbreak of the disaster. Every moment, countless living beings died. The entire world was filled with cries, cries, cries for help, and painful moans of living beings. Resentment, boundless resentment rose into the air. It almost covered the sky. These were all emitted after the death of living beings. They were the most strange and domineering, able to corrode everything. And in a corner that no one noticed, an inexplicable force appeared, devouring the resentment. If someone traced the source, they would find that this force came from Mount Buzhou. Let's fight. Let's fight to our heart's content. Let the resentment of all living beings come even more fiercely. Chapter 504. Murmurs full of resentment came from the depths of Mount Buzhou. They were strange and unpredictable. Those were the voices of the Chaos Demon Gods. They were venting their unwillingness. They were unwilling to sink into depravity. They were unwilling to lose their freedom forever. They were using their powerful resentment to corrode Mount Buzhou so that they could regain their freedom and take revenge on Pengu. Perhaps because of the loss of the seed of the world tree, the Chaos Demon Gods suddenly became enlightened. They no longer corroded the entire Mount Buzhou with their resentment. Instead, they focused on one point. They focused all their resentment on the root of Mount Buzhou and wanted to cut off Mount Buzhou from the root. In this way, the speed of the Chaos Demon Gods corroding Mount Buzhou was greatly accelerated. It was not far from the day when they would be free. However, the time of the Chaos Demon Gods was not measured in days, but in yuan hui. Their so-called speed was hundreds of millions of years in the untainted land. It was an extremely long period of time. However, with the beginning of the Great Lich Demon War, A variable appeared. The resentment that permeated the world converged towards Mount Buzhou in a strange way, and began to corrode it from the outside to the inside. The resentment of all living beings was not only directed at the Lich demon race but also at the untainted land. They resented the arrival of the Great Tribulation and the inaction of the heavenly Tao. They wanted to completely destroy the untainted land to vent their resentment. The simplest way to destroy the untainted land was to destroy Mount Buzhou, the backbone of the world. The resentment of all living beings corroded Mount Buzhou from the outside. The resentment of the Chaos Demon gods corroded Mount Buzhou from the inside. At this moment, Mount Buzhou could be said to be attacked from both sides. It was almost undetectable. Mount Buzhou sank a little. It could not hold on any longer. After all, Mount Buzhou was a dead object, not a living object. It lacked agility. Under the attack of both sides, it was normal for it, which was not as good as before, to be unable to hold on. With the help of the resentment of all living beings, the Chaos Demon gods, who originally needed tens of millions of years to escape, gradually saw the dawn of escape. That was because the stronger the resentment of all living beings, the faster they would be able to escape. Therefore, they were excited and used their magical powers at all costs to gather the resentment of all living beings. Quick, quick. Faster. The Chaos Demonic God was about to break free. At this moment, everyone's attention was focused on Dijiang Tai and the others who were constantly fighting. They didn't notice the abnormality on Mount Buzhou at all. An unprecedented calamity was about to arrive. Kill! The battle between the liches and demons became fiercer and fiercer. One after another, supreme mystic skills blasted towards each other as if they were free of charge. Now, their eyes were completely bloodshot. They were exchanging injuries for injuries, and they looked like they were going to perish together. It was just a matter of who gave up first. Boom, boom, boom. At this moment, the heaven realm had completely collapsed. Even more than half of the boundless starry sky had been devoured by the chaos outside the heavens. Chaotic chi wreaked havoc, earth, fire, water, and wind emerged. The 5 elements Yuan Qi went berserk, and a destructive storm engulfed everything. This was a true portrayal of the boundless starry sky. Zhouxing and the many ancient stars that hadn't been shot down by the witch tribe were unlucky. Not only did they have to resist the devouring of the chaotic chi, but they also had to be attacked by the aftershocks of the battle between the liches and demons. Zhouxing, which was already heavily injured, was even more seriously injured. It was on the verge of collapse. Fortunately, the 2 supreme stars, the Sun Star and the Moon Star, were still there. With their suppression, although the boundless starry sky was dangerous, it wouldn't be completely devoured by the chaotic chi and become a part of the chaos outside the heavens. With the collapse of the heaven realm, the battlefield of Dijiang Tai and the others also shifted, slowly approaching the wilderness. However, on the way to the wilderness, they inevitably had to pass by Mount Buzhou. Rumble! Waves of destructive power burst out from the void and swept fiercely on Mount Buzhou. Yes! The root of Mount Buzhou was eroded. Its mountain body wasn't damaged too much. Therefore, the aftershocks of these mystic skills couldn't hurt Mount Buzhou. However, every time the aftershocks of the mystic skills blasted on Mount Buzhou, although it didn't cause any damage to the mountain, it accelerated the speed at which the resentment of all living beings eroded Mount Buzhou's root. This was shaking the foundation of Mount Buzhou and also helping the Chaos Demon God to escape. Mount Buzhou's power was greatly reduced because of this, and it couldn't fight back. If someone dared to fight Mount Buzhou so presumptuously in the past, Mount Buzhou would have already fought back and suppressed them at the end of time and space. There would be no life and no death. From this, it could be seen that Mount Buzhou was really on the verge of collapse. Unfortunately, the liches and demons were already in a frenzy and had completely lost their minds. They only wanted to kill each other and didn't notice this at all. However, the experts of the liches and demons didn't notice. However, among the great magicians who were hiding in the void and watching the battle secretly, someone noticed that something was wrong. What's going on? Why is Mount Buzhou so quiet? Taoist Zhuoyong asked curiously. There were very few great magicians who didn't know about Mount Buzhou. Many of them had suffered losses in its hands and knew how terrifying it was. But now, it didn't even have any reaction after being bombarded with so many great magicians of the liches and demons. It was extremely strange and inevitably aroused the curiosity of those who were observant. As Taoist Zhuoyong spoke, He observed Mount Bujo and wanted to see what was wrong. At this moment, another great magician's aftershock blasted Mount Bujo. This attack still didn't cause any damage to Mount Bujo. However, what was unbelievable was that Mount Bujo, which had remained unchanged since ancient times, actually shook slightly under that attack. Although the shaking was very, very slight and almost imperceptible to the naked eye, it really happened. And this scene happened to be seen by Taoist Joyong, who had been observing Mount Bujo. The next moment, Taoist Joyong was dumbfounded. The expression on his face was 50% disbelief, 30% shock, and 20% fear. Mount Bujo moved. It moved. In the void, Taoist Joyong's extremely terrified voice suddenly sounded. This voice was extremely loud. It even covered the rumbling of the battlefield and resounded in everyone's ears. What? Hearing this, everyone's first reaction. They didn't believe it. What kind of existence was Mount Bujo? How could it shake because of the attack of the Great One? It was simply ridiculous. But in the next moment, they believed it. Because when they looked at Mount Bujo, an aftershock happened to sweep over and hit the side of Mount Bujo, causing it to shake a little. This time, the shaking was even more obvious than the last time. It could already be observed with the naked eye. Mount Bujo moved. It really moved. It happened right in front of the eyes of the great magicians. It was shaken by the aftershock of the battle between the liches and demons. Chapter 505. But how was this possible? Mount Bujo was the primordial heavenly pillar. Even though they had witnessed it with their own eyes, the group of great divine abilities still found it difficult to accept this fact. It was because Mount Bujo's position in their hearts was very important. A mountain that held up heaven and earth, separated the two worlds, and suppressed the ancient and modern times. It was incomparably majestic and powerful. He was an unreachable peak, and the goal of the people should be the same for all eternity and eternity. But today it shook. It was shaken by someone's attack. It was as if a myth had been shattered. It was unbelievable. However, everyone who could cultivate to the realm of great divine abilities were all people with extraordinary states of mind. It didn't take long for them to adjust their mentality. It was good that Mount Bujo was gone. At that time, everyone could travel the long river of time and space, attack the past and future, reverse time and space, and reverse the cause. Wouldn't that be beautiful? That was a good thing. Sometimes, thinking about things from a different perspective would yield unexpected gains. From the shaking of Mount Bujo, everyone thought of the collapse of Mount Bujo, and then thought of the impact this matter had on them. They couldn't help but feel happy. Unfortunately, they were all smart people. Smart people. It was easy for them to think too much. Therefore, everyone continued to think about it. Thinking about it, they broke out in cold sweat. If Mount Bujo collapsed, how could the primordial world be spared? And if the primordial world was gone, could they still survive? This time, everyone really panicked. They originally thought that the great war between the witches and demons had nothing to do with them. But who knew that the witches and demons were a group of lunatics? They actually erupted without care and were about to destroy the primordial world. In just an instant, all the great divine abilities of the primordial world reached a consensus. The witches and demons could not fight anymore. If they continued to fight, no one knew if they would be able to determine life and death. But the primordial world was definitely gone. Crack! At this moment, another divine ability swept over and hit Mount Bujo's body, causing it to make a cracking sound. Not good. The moment this voice fell, a great fear rose in the hearts of all the great divine abilities at the same time. The shadow of death covered their hearts. It was as if an unimaginable calamity was about to descend. This was death. It was not a long sleep. It was true death. The kind that would never return. Apocalyptic calamity. It was definitely a world-ending calamity. Apart from the calamity of the destruction of heaven and earth, there was no other calamity that could make them so fearful and even cause them to truly die. At this time, under the threat of death, no one dared to hold back. They all walked out of the mountain gate and quickly rushed towards the battlefield. He couldn't let the shamans and demons fight anymore. It doesn't matter if they die. However, he would drag the primordial world down with him. Absolutely not. Quick, stop. Stop fighting. Even the heavens and earth are about to be destroyed by you. Even the saints were getting anxious at this moment. They could not care less about their own plans. They all descended on the battlefield of the liches and demons, wanting to separate Tai Ed Jiang and the others. But the Grand Shaman and the Demon Saint had been fighting for so long that they had long been invaded by the heaven and earth tribulation chi, completely losing their minds. In his heart, other than the desire to kill his opponent, there was only the desire to destroy everything. How could they be easily persuaded by others when they were blinded by the aura of calamity? In fact, when they saw the crowd rushing over, they actually abandoned their opponents at the same time and attacked the crowd who had rushed over to persuade them. Dang! All of you die! Di Jun, Tai E, and the others seemed to have fallen into madness. They wantonly used their divine abilities and destroyed everything around them. Rumble! Attacks filled the sky. Each one of them emitted an extremely terrifying aura. The power contained was enough to severely injure a half-step primordial chaos existence. Sensing the danger, everyone subconsciously activated the spirit treasures in their hands and counterattacked. Not good. However, as soon as this attack was launched, everyone's heart skipped a beat as they realized that something was wrong. However, it was too late. How could it be so easy to take back a divine ability that had been launched? Rumble! Resplendent light erupted and covered everything. It was the scene caused by hundreds of divine abilities colliding. Moreover, they were all great divine abilities, as well as the supreme divine abilities of the saints. One could imagine how powerful the power contained in them was. Even a primordial chaos expert would be severely injured or even die if they fell into it. Boom! Terrifying power erupted. An invisible ripple spread out. In the blink of an eye, everything was destroyed. Everywhere it passed, there was nothing. It was Mount Buzhou. It could not block its power. Therefore, Mount Buzhou fell. Rumble! The ripple spread out, carrying a huge force and knocking down Mount Buzhou. Immediately, the long river of time and space raged. Earth, fire, water, and wind surged out together. The heaven and earth barrier also shattered. The heavenly river poured down, and heavenly fire surged out. The entire primordial world was in deep water and scorching fire. Yes, the idiom, deep water and scorching fire, came from this. Ah, help! The world was filled with the cries and wails of all living beings. How could this be? It must be fake. Looking at the collapsed Mount Buzhou, everyone present was dumbfounded. This script was not right. Wasn't the final battle of the Magi almost causing Mount Buzhou to collapse and the primordial world to be destroyed? Then, we stepped forward without caring about our own safety and ended the great calamity and advanced to save the primordial world? Why did it turn into us fighting with the Lich and pushing down Mount Buzhou in the end? To topple Mount Buzhou, just how great was the power of karma? For a moment, everyone felt a chill in their hearts. At this moment, even Tai Ed Jun, Di Jiang, and the other ancestral magi calmed down and stopped the battle. How could this be? Looking at the collapsed Mount Buzhou, their eyes were filled with confusion. They were not surprised that the heavenly realm was destroyed. They were not surprised that the boundless starry sky was destroyed. They were not surprised that the primordial world was riddled with holes. However, they were really surprised that Mount Buzhou had collapsed. That was Mount Buzhou. It represented Pangu's will and suppressed all space-time in the past, present, and future. It was the #1 divine mountain in the primordial world. Even if they self-destructed, they should not be able to hurt it at all. But now, how could it be pushed down by the aftermath of their battle? It was too fragile. If it were not for the extremely strong aura of Pangu that permeated Mount Buzhou's body, Di Jiang would have suspected that the Mount Buzhou in front of him was fake. But how could he? Puzzled, very puzzled. Not to mention Di Jiang, even the other great magicians did not know why the Mount Buzhou, which was said to be invincible in the primordial world, would be so easily pushed down by them. However, being puzzled was one thing. At this moment, the most important thing was, it was better to quickly clean up the mess. After Mount Buzhou fell, the world lost its support and showed signs of closing again. The sky had already begun to sink. If they did not clean it up, when the world became one, the primordial world would really be gone. Fortunately, as soon as the world showed signs of closing, the Ghost Emperor of Fengdu activated the entire netherworld and pulled the primordial world, causing it to sink continuously to prevent the primordial world from rising. This bought a lot of time for the other great gods, allowing them to deal with other matters with more ease. Not good. Retreat quickly. Just as everyone was discussing how to survive this calamity, the Grand Pure One's eyelids suddenly twitched, and a great fear arose in his heart. Before he could think carefully, the Grand Pure One hurriedly shouted and left Mount Buzhou far away. Let's go! Let's go! After the Grand Pure One, the Heavenly Lord of Primordial Beginning and the Grand Master of Heaven had a bad feeling almost at the same time. They hurriedly shouted and retreated. Although everyone was puzzled, they did not dare to stay any longer when they saw the powerful three Pure Ones retreating in a hurry. They directly retreated behind the three Pure Ones. There's something strange at the bottom of Mount Buzhou. Looking at the place where Mount Buzhou was broken, the Grand Pure One frowned and said solemnly. There, earth, fire, water and wind gushed out. The aura of destruction was everywhere. It was pitch black. It was simply a forbidden area for living beings. Danger. That was the feeling that the bottom of Mount Buzhou gave everyone. Just a glance from afar was enough to send chills down their spines and give birth to a sense of danger. If they really walked in, wouldn't they be in danger of dying? What exactly is there? Although everyone was curious, no one dared to go forward to check. No one was a fool. By the way, why hasn't teacher appeared yet? Suddenly, someone asked in a low voice. That's right. Such a huge thing had happened, and the primordial world was about to be finished. Why hadn't Tao Ancestor Hongjun appeared yet? At this moment, everyone realized that something was wrong. If it were any other time, the Tao Ancestor would have appeared long ago. If he still did not appear, it was obvious that he had been held back by something. Something that could hold back the Tao Ancestor was definitely bigger than what they were facing now. Thinking of this, everyone's heart sank. It was even bigger than the destruction of the primordial world. Then what was it? They did not dare to think, they did not dare to think. At the same time, at the intersection of the chaos outside the heavens and the chaos outside the realm, two figures were facing each other from afar. If anyone came here, they would recognize that the figure in the chaos outside the heavens was the primordial world Tao Ancestor Hongjun. Although the background of the person opposite him was unknown, he was obviously not a simple person to be able to stop the Tao Ancestor. Fellow Taoist Yang Mei, are you really going to stop the poor way? Tao Ancestor Hongjun looked at the person in front of him and said expressionlessly. Yang Mei. The person who came was immortal Yang Mei. She was a true legend. The reincarnation of the space demon god, the transformation of the innate willow tree of the 10 innate spiritual roots, the first existence in the primordial world to become the primordial chaos Daluo Jingxian. She had even achieved the Tao before the Tao Ancestor. No, to be precise, she had achieved the Tao before the heavens and earth. As an existence second only to Pangu among the chaos demon gods, Yang Mei's realm had long surpassed the primordial chaos Tao realm and reached an extremely mysterious realm. Her cultivation was close to Pangu's. And things like the Tao realm, it was about eternal proof and never falling. Therefore, even though Yang Mei had reincarnated into the primordial world, her realm was still there. However, her physical body and strength were no longer there. These, she had to cultivate from the beginning. Chapter 506. However, because his realm was still there, his cultivation was different from that of ordinary people. That was, there would be no bottleneck. As long as his strength was there, his realm would naturally break through until his cultivation returned to the realm of his previous life. Therefore, it was not correct to say that Yang Mei was the first existence in the primordial world to cultivate to the level of primordial chaos Daluo Jingxian. To be precise, he had restored his cultivation to the level of primordial chaos Daluo Jingxian. Sigh. I had no choice but to come because of someone's request. So, fellow Taoist Hongjun, you'd better stay here with poor Wei for a while. Sighing, immortal Yang Mei said helplessly. He was a chaos fiend god. Even if he reincarnated into the primordial world, this would not change at all. Thinking about it, the chaos fiend god was known as the son of chaos. He was the most powerful and noble living being in the world. Every one of them had the potential to achieve the great Tao. In the primordial world, that would be a heaven-defying talent. In that case, how could Yang Mei give up such a noble identity for the primordial world? Therefore, Yang Mei had no choice but to take action at this moment and block Tao ancestor Hong Jun's path to prevent him from stopping the Chaos Fiend God from breaking out of the seal. After all, compared to the living beings of the primordial world, the Chaos Fiend gods were his true friends. Hearing that, Tao ancestor Hong Jun could not help but frown. He was very afraid of Yang Mei, because he had once been defeated by this person. That was when he had just attained the Tao and thought that he was invincible in the primordial world. But in the end, he met Yang Mei again. Then, he suffered an unprecedented defeat. Yang Mei stood there. No matter how Tao ancestor Hong Jun used all his methods, he could not hurt her at all. Instead, she took away all her spirit treasures. Although at the end of the story, Yang Mei returned all the treasures to Hong Jun. However, that battle had left an indelible impression on Hong Jun. Fellow Taoist Yang Mei, you have also cultivated in the primordial world and received the grace of this world. How can you watch him be destroyed and do nothing? After thinking for a while, Tao ancestor Hong Jun played the emotional card. It was not that he did not want to suppress Yang Mei violently, but he could not. Hong Jun might not be Yang Mei's match, but the heavenly Tao was definitely. If he wanted to make a move, he could definitely suppress Yang Mei. However, Yang Mei's location was very particular. It happened to be the border between the Great Chaos and the Great Chaos. In this way, as long as the heavenly Tao attacked, Yang Mei would be out of the range of the primordial world and the heavenly Tao would not be able to do anything to her. This was the disadvantage of the will of the world. Although it was invincible within the world, it could not leave the boundary of the world. The restrictions were extremely great. Besides, Yang Mei was able to escape from Pangu and successfully reincarnate into the untainted land. One could imagine how powerful she was. Can the heavenly axiom really take him down? It was because of all kinds of scruples that Hong Jun would negotiate with him. Otherwise, do you really think that the Tao ancestor has a good temper? The reason why Yang Mei was able to recover her current strength was not only because of her own efforts, but also because of the resources from the untainted world. This was karma, and it had to be repaid. If Hong Jun brought this up, Yang Mei might have some misgivings. Sure enough, as soon as his voice fell, Yang Mei's face became ugly. Speaking of this, he was really angry. The reason why the untainted land could be where it was today was not only because Pangu had transformed into heaven and earth, but also because it had devoured the bodies of the 3,000 demon gods. But in the end, he reincarnated into the untainted land. Not only did he not enjoy the treatment of the god of creation, but he was also often tortured by heaven and earth. Even if he wanted to leave the untainted land, he had to first settle the karma between him and the untainted land and compensate him for the resources he had consumed to cultivate in the untainted land. What was all this? Until now, Yang Mei had not left the untainted land and went to the Great Chaos to search for the Great Tao because he had not paid off the debt he owed to the untainted land. Therefore, he had been staying at the border between the untainted land and the chaos, engaging in the work of transforming the chaos chi in order to pay off the debt as soon as possible and escape. With Pangu around, nothing will happen to the untainted land. You don't have to worry. After a while, Yang Mei said with a sullen face, but she did not even call him fellow Taoist. Before the Great Tao was completed, how could Pangu watch the untainted land be destroyed? If it really reached an irreversible situation, he would definitely intervene. Yang Mei could see this clearly as a bystander. She was not worried that the untainted land would be destroyed. That's true. After thinking about it, Tao ancestor Hong Jun felt that what she said made sense. His nervous heart gradually calmed down. Moreover, the karma between me and the untainted land has long been settled when Rahu died. After a while, Yang Mei continued. She was saying that she no longer had any karma with the untainted land. At the end of the ancient times, Yang Mei had helped Yu Hong Jun defeat the demon ancestor Rahu and stopped him from destroying the untainted land. Yang Mei had taken this opportunity to sever her connection with the untainted land. She only needed to repay the debt and she could leave. Also, I came here today only to save my former fellow Taoists. With all the years of cultivation in the chaos, I will not interfere with the operation of the untainted land. In the end, Yang Mei added. She was really not interested in the untainted land. After a deadly calamity, Yang Mei had a new understanding of the Great Tao. Therefore, she was eager to return to the depths of the chaos and cultivate in seclusion. She really did not want to care about the trivial matters of the mortal world. After saving the Chaos Fiend God, Yang Mei would have completed her merit and could go to the depths of the chaos to cultivate in seclusion without any worries. Congratulations, fellow Taoist. After hearing Yang Mei's words, Tao ancestor Hong Jun vaguely understood her current state and could not help but say enviously. After completing her merit, she would escape the calamity and head to the depths of the chaos to pursue the great Tao. That would be true freedom and freedom. It was much better than him being trapped in the Purple Cloud Palace. Yang Mei smiled and did not say anything. Hee. This day has finally come. We are about to return to the world. Just as everyone was hesitating whether they should go to the bottom of Mount Buzhou to take a look, a burst of wild laughter suddenly came from the depths of the ground. Who is it? Everyone was shocked. They hurriedly took out their Dharma treasures and looked at the bottom of Mount Buzhou vigilantly. People? What is that thing? How can you be so lowly? How can you call yourself us? Remember, we are the masters of the chaos. Accompanied by an arrogant voice, the bottom of Mount Buzhou suddenly trembled violently. Immediately after, a pitch-black beam of light completely composed of chaotic evil aura suddenly rushed out from the bottom of Mount Buzhou. It went all the way up, passed through the boundless starry sky and the chaos beyond the sky, and directly collided with the barrier of heaven and earth. Then, the barrier of heaven and earth shattered. Like a mirror shattering, countless cracks appeared first, and then it shattered all over the ground. Chapter 507. Seeing this scene, everyone was dumbfounded. Even Feng Zichen, who was hiding and watching the show, was dumbfounded. That was the heaven and earth barrier. The strongest defense of the primordial world. It protected the primordial world from the invasion of the great chaos. If the heaven and earth barrier was broken, the consequences would be unimaginable. At the very least, the primordial world was in danger of being destroyed. Without the heaven and earth barrier, how could the primordial world resist the invasion of the great chaos? It could be swallowed by the violent chaos chi at any time and become a part of the chaos. The heaven and earth barrier was the foundation of the primordial world. Normally, no matter how fierce everyone was, even if they completely destroyed the world, as long as the heaven and earth barrier was still there, the primordial world would not be truly destroyed. They could create a new world in the chaos. However, the great chaos outside the primordial world was different from the chaos outside the primordial world. The chaos will there was too strong, and almost no one could create a new world there. Even Feng Zichen created a small primordial world with the protection of the heaven and earth barrier. Otherwise, he would not dare to create a new world in the great chaos outside the primordial world. Just the backlash of the primordial world was enough to kill him. Rumble. As soon as a hole appeared in the heaven and earth barrier, the violent chaos chi impatiently squeezed in through the hole. Fortunately, although the chaos chi was strong, it was impossible for it to completely shatter the heaven and earth barrier with one strike. It only made a small hole in the heaven and earth barrier. However, one should not underestimate this hole. As the saying goes, 1,000-mile dike collapses because of an ant's nest. If this hole was not dealt with in time, it was very likely that it would cause the entire heaven and earth barrier to collapse. Crack. Crack. The heaven and earth barrier could not bear the terrifying pressure and made cracking sounds. The crack continued to expand, and more chaos chi surged in. Not good. At the border of the primordial world and the chaos, Tao ancestor Hong Jun saw this scene. He had just relaxed, but his heart suddenly jumped. If this was not handled properly, the primordial world would really be gone. Tao ancestor Hong Jun did not dare to hesitate and was about to repair the heaven and earth barrier. However, the Chaos Fiend God had been waiting for this opportunity for a long time. How could he let Tao ancestor Hong Jun seal the hole in the heaven and earth barrier so easily? They did not care about hiding anymore. They walked out of the depths of the chaos and charged towards Tao ancestor Hong Jun. Hong Jun was helpless. He immediately transformed into the heavenly Tao and fought with the Chaos Demon God. However, because he had to worry about the gap in the barrier between heaven and earth, Tian Dao Hong Jun could not let go of his hands and feet when fighting with the Chaos Demon God. He was a little timid and gradually fell into a disadvantage. On the other hand, the Chaos Fiend Celestial was able to defeat the heavenly Dao Hong Jun despite being the weaker party due to his lack of scruples. Obstructed by the Chaos Fiend Celestial, the heavenly Dao Hong Jun could only barely hold them back and was powerless to repair the heaven and earth barrier. As for great immortal Yang Mei, she watched from the side, not helping either side. Quick! Quick! While the crack is still small, think of a way to plug it. Otherwise, when the barrier of heaven and earth is completely broken, even if Panga's father is reborn, he will not be able to save the primordial world. At this moment, the great mediums of the untainted land finally came to their senses. He could not care less about the chaotic primordial world. He wanted to head to the chaos outside the heavens and think of a way to mend the heaven and earth barrier. Leave. Where do you want to go? Stay here obediently and be the resources for our recovery. Just as they were about to leave, at the bottom of Mount Buzhou, a stream of chaotic evil chi suddenly gushed out and kept churning on the ground. Who's there? Playing tricks. Courting death. After being blocked by the Chaos Fiend Celestial, the people who were in a hurry to leave were completely enraged. They raised the spiritual treasures in their hands and attacked the chaotic evil chi. Rumble! The chaotic evil chi exploded on the spot. Even the extremely hard Mount Buzhou below was sent flying by the people's attacks. And this was also what the Chaos Fiend Celestial wanted. The seal left by Pangu was completely broken under the joint attack of the people. The Chaos Fiend Celestial, who had been sealed since the creation of heaven and earth, finally came out. Haha! Pangu, we are here to take revenge on you. Horrifying demonic shadows rushed out from the bottom of Mount Buzhou one after another, and a shocking pressure filled the air. Their figures were extremely huge, and they were surrounded by Taoist rhymes. They were even more majestic than heaven and earth, and they exuded boundless dominance as if they could suppress the past, present, and future. This was the Chaos Fiend Celestial. Panga's aura. I feel a very strong Panga's aura. There seems to be a descendant of Pangu here. In an instant, many horrifying eyes looked at Hutu. Panga's bloodline was the purest and strongest here. After sizing up Hutu for a while, the Chaos Fiend Celestial turned their eyes to three pure ones, Dijiang, and the other ancestral sorcerers. Panga's descendants. So many Panga's descendants. As long as I devour them, I can recover most of my strength. Thinking of the benefits of devouring Hutu and the others, the Chaos Fiend Celestial's eyes suddenly became hot. Murderous intent filled the air. Everyone, it's important to block the sky screen. We, the Seven Saints, will stall the Fiend Celestial true spirits here. Everyone, quickly go to the outer space to block the sky screen and prevent it from collapsing further. Knowing that the matter of blocking the sky screen could not be delayed, the Seven Saints stepped forward and blocked the Chaos Fiend Celestial, opening a passage to the outer space for everyone. There were more than 2,000 Chaos Fiend Celestials who escaped. Only the Seven Saints with the heavenly Tao behind them could block them. If it were anyone else, they would definitely be blasted into pieces by the 2,000 Chaos Fiend Celestials. He couldn't be any more dead. As they stepped forward, the Seven Saints also looked at Di Jun and the others. Fellow Taoist, now that the primordial world is about to be destroyed, please put down your personal grudges and focus on the primordial world. It was rare for the Grand Pure One to speak to Di Jun and the others in an extremely polite tone. He had to be polite. Apart from them, Di Jun and the other two were the strongest in the primordial world. They had to be relied on to repair the heaven and earth barrier. Perhaps in the end, they would have to use their bodies to repair the sky screen. If they were to be rude now, it would not be good for anyone if they were to fall out with them. It was better to be polite. It could save a lot of trouble. For the sake of the primordial world, in order to survive, they had to endure everything. That's how it should be. Without any nonsense, the three of them led a group of powerful beings and rushed to the chaos outside the sky. It's just food. You want to leave too? You're really overestimating yourself. Seeing that someone was leaving, the Chaos Fiend Celestial was displeased. These were all resources for them to recover their strength. How could they leave just like that? Say. One after another, extremely terrifying divine abilities burst out from the void and blasted toward the crowd. Seeing this, the Seven Saints hurriedly stopped them. Chapter 508. The Chaos Demon God's divine powers were extremely simple and crude compared to the exquisite divine powers of the primitive world. But even so, they were extremely powerful. The divine powers of the Seven Saints were completely defenseless in front of them. Boom, 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 boom. Terrifying power exploded, and the 7 saints were forced to retreat, even vomiting blood. The Chaos Demon God's divine powers had reached a limit in the use of Great Tao runes. They abandoned all the complicated runes and used the simplest way to unleash the strongest power. Great Tao was simple. This was the principle behind the Chaos Demon God's divine powers. Oh! Still not dead? Seeing that the 7 saints were only injured and not dead, the Chaos Demon Gods were a little surprised, as if they were surprised by their strength. But this surprise did not last long, and was replaced by excitement in the blink of an eye. The stronger the 7 saints were, the more power they would recover after devouring them. Dang! With a loud roar, the Chaos Demon Gods attacked again. This time, they did not hold back, and each of them unleashed their full strength. Bang! 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 Unsurprisingly, the 7 saints were defeated. Even with connate cardinal treasures in hand, they could not block the attacks of the Chaos Demon Gods. Soon, they were drowned by the divine powers. Puff! Among the 7 saints, Taoist Kundi, who had the weakest cultivation and the worst numinous treasure, was the first to collapse, and his body was blasted into pieces by the violent divine powers. Then it was Jie-in, Nuwa, and the 3 pure ones. In the blink of an eye, the 7 saints were all killed. However, the primordial spirits of the saints were entrusted to the heavenly Tao. As long as the heavenly Tao and the primitive world were not destroyed, no one in the world could kill the saints. Whoosh! A ray of colorful light appeared, and the 7 saints who had been blasted into pieces walked out slowly. Their bodies were spotless, and they were not injured at all. Their strength was also maintained at the peak. This power? Is it the heavenly Tao? Interesting. With a scornful smile, the Chaos Demon Gods continued to attack. Resurrect? Just kill them again. Resurrect again? Then kill them again. No matter how you resurrect. How many times can you resurrect? Do you really think resurrection does not require energy? There was a limit to everything. When the power of the heavenly law was exhausted, the 7 saints would truly be dead. Unfortunately, these Chaos Fiend Celestials had forgotten. Thanks to their physical bodies, the origin of the primeval age was very strong. Even if they resurrected a few saints thousands of times, the power they lost was just a drop in the ocean. The 7 sages were killed and resurrected again and again. No matter what the Chaos Fiend God did, he could not do anything to them. For a time, both sides were in a stalemate. While the 2 sides were in a stalemate, Tai Yi and the others had already rushed to the border between chaos and chaos. First of all, what they saw was not the gap in the barrier between heaven and earth, but Yang Mei in white. Secondly, what they saw was heavenly Dao Hongjun, who was fighting against the Chaos Demon God. Finally, he saw the gap in the heaven and earth barrier. Who is this person? Why can you stand in the chaos? Also, who was the one fighting with Teacher? A series of questions appeared in everyone's minds, causing them to be extremely puzzled. But at this moment, obviously, there was no one to explain it to them. All of you, hurry up and repair the heaven and earth barrier. Seeing everyone rush over, heavenly Dao Hongjun shouted coldly. Yes, heavenly Dao. Hearing this voice, everyone knew that the person in front of them was not their teacher, but heavenly Dao. All of a sudden, the excitement in everyone's hearts disappeared without a trace. Qi responded expressionlessly and went to the gap in the heaven and earth barrier, trying to repair it. Bastard! How dare you! Seeing this, the Chaos Fiend God could not help but be furious and roar. Unfortunately, while they were holding back heavenly Dao Hongjun, they were also held back by heavenly Dao Hongjun and could not stop Tai Yi and the others. Dang dang dang! The bell of chaos vibrated violently. The great power that had destroyed the chaos and suppressed the earth, fire, water, and wind when the heavens and earth were created suddenly reappeared. Rumble! Before the chaotic airflow that surged over entered the primeval age, it was suppressed, shattered, and decomposed by the power of the bell of chaos, turning into the purest origin of heaven and earth to strengthen the heaven and earth barrier. Buzz! The primeval age map vibrated as if a huge world had descended. It absorbed the chaotic airflow wantonly to reduce the pressure on the heaven and earth barrier. The other great beings also used their own methods to repair the heaven and earth barrier. Not long after, with everyone's efforts, the heaven and earth barrier's shattering was greatly alleviated and gradually stopped. However, that enormous gap caused everyone to be in a dilemma. No matter what method they used, they could not repair it. Fellow Taoist, Are you just going to watch them attack without doing anything? You must know that this may be our only chance to take revenge on Pengu. Seeing that the heaven and earth barrier was no longer shattering, the chaos fiend god who was fighting heavenly Dao Hongjun became anxious and hurriedly shouted at Yang Mei. Fellow Taoist, why bother? Sighing, Yang Mei said helplessly. When I succeed in the future, I will definitely settle the matter with Pengu. As for the primeval age, I have a karma with it, so it's not convenient for me to do anything. As she spoke, Yang Mei took out a supreme-grade connate spirit treasure and crushed it. After scattering it into the primeval age, she turned and left. Fellow Taoists, now that you are free, I should also head to the chaos to cultivate in seclusion. Everyone, let's meet again if fate wills it. In the blink of an eye, Yang Mei's figure had already disappeared, leaving only a faint Dao voice echoing in everyone's ears. Sigh. Since Yang Mei wanted to leave, the chaos fiend god could not stop her, so he could only sigh gloomily. However, what made him even more depressed was yet to come. Sigh, fellow Taoists. This calamity started because of us, so let us end it. Since he could not repair the heaven and earth barrier no matter how hard he tried, Di Jiang gritted his teeth and stepped forward. He planned to mend the heaven barrier with his body. No, he planned to get Tai Di Jun to mend the heaven barrier with him. The primeval age was created by his father, Pengu. Even if it was destroyed, it could not be destroyed by his hands. If he sacrificed himself, he could save the primeval age. Di Jiang had no regrets. Besides, he was already the primeval age Daluo Jinxian with an indestructible true spirit. Even if he used his body to mend the heaven barrier, he would not really die. As time passed, he would return one day. Fellow Taoist Di Jiang, what do you mean? Everyone vaguely understood Di Jiang's plan, but they still asked uncertainly. It was easy to say that he would use his body to mend the heaven barrier, but he would have to sacrifice everything. Who would be willing to turn endless years of bitter cultivation into flowing water in the blink of an eye? Not to mention, Di Jiang had already cultivated to the primeval age Daluo Jinxian realm and had completely transcended heaven and earth. To put it bluntly, when one's cultivation reached Di Jiang's realm, they could completely leave the primeval age and cultivate in the chaos. Whether the primeval age was destroyed or not, it would not hurt Di Jiang. He could have just left. Therefore, it was inevitable that everyone would be suspicious of Di Jiang. Faced with everyone's doubts, Di Jiang shook his head and smiled. He did not explain. Instead, he used his actions to express his intentions. Boom! Wisps of sacred light bloomed from Di Jiang's body, illuminating the entire chaos. That was Di Jiang's origin. He was burning his origin in exchange for unimaginable power to mend the heaven and earth barrier. Sister Hutu. From now on, I'll leave the witch race to you. Looking at Hutu, Di Jiang said with nostalgia. Chapter 509. Finally, Di Jiang laughed heartily, accompanied by endless brilliance. He rushed towards the gap in the barrier of heaven and earth. Ha ha! Fellow Taoists, Di Jiang is leaving. As soon as he finished speaking, Di Jiang's figure gradually disappeared in the flames, leaving only a ball of bright light that rushed towards the gap in the barrier of heaven and earth. Boom! The intense flames boiled and burst out with endless brilliance. They burned away the chaotic aura that was surging over and gradually blocked the gap in the barrier of heaven and earth. However, that was all. How could the barrier of heaven and earth be so easy to repair? Di Jiang's strength alone was far from enough. Haha! Big brother, I'm coming to accompany you. Suddenly, Zhurong laughed loudly. He sacrificed his origin and pounced on the flames that Di Jiang had turned into. After him, Gonggong, Chongliang, Sai, Tianwu, Xianming, and the remaining 5 ancestral magi of the wizard clan also sacrificed themselves and followed Di Jiang. However, just as Xianming sacrificed himself, Gonggong suddenly spat out a mouthful of origin water and extinguished the flames on his body. Sister, you must live. The wizard clan can't live without an ancestral magus. This was the last sentence that Gonggong left in the world. Ancestral magus Xianming was the youngest of the 12 ancestral magi. Therefore, the ancestral magi usually took care of him. The other ancestral magi naturally wouldn't let him do such a suicidal thing. Rumble! The origin of the 6 ancestral magi merged and gave birth to a wisp of Panga's power. Immediately, a majestic aura spread and shocked the entire chaos. The barrier of heaven and earth began to slowly recover. Panga. Sensing this aura, the chaos demon gods who were fighting with Tiandao Hongjun felt endless hatred in their hearts and roared out loud. Then, they pounced on the flames without caring about anything else. For this, they took several blows from Tiandao Hongjun and were beaten until their skin and flesh were torn open. Kill. Several chaos demon gods charged straight at the flames formed by the ancestral magi and passed through them. Puff. After suffering such a heavy blow, the flames directly collapsed. The barrier of heaven and earth that was recovering also stopped abruptly. You want to restore the barrier of heaven and earth? Dream on. A chaos demon god said coldly as he stood in the chaos. If the heaven and earth barrier were to be restored, wouldn't they be trapped in the primordial world? How terrible would that be? It would be hard for him not to die. That was why they rushed towards the flames formed by the ancestral magus at all costs. Firstly, it could prevent the ancestral sorcerer from repairing the barrier of heaven and earth. Secondly, he could take this opportunity to leave the primordial world. Now that he thought about it, it was too rash of him to rush into the primordial world on a whim. If he accidentally fell into the primordial world, he would really be finished. It was better to stay in the chaos. The other party did not dare to rashly walk out of the primordial world. In this way, they could attack, retreat, and defend. They were innately in an invincible position. On top of that, he could also make a move to destroy the heaven and earth barrier when the other party was repairing it. It was perfect. Did he really think that the chaos fiend god was a brute? They were just too powerful and too lazy to use their brains. Strength could solve everything, so why would he need to use his wisdom? It would be a grave mistake to underestimate the chaos demon god because of this. If the chaos demon god used his wisdom, it would definitely be very shocking. Just like now. Although the light formed by the ancestral magus dissipated, it did not disappear. After the chaos demon god left, it gathered again. However, it was much weaker and was far less resplendent than before. At this moment, it was no longer enough to repair the heaven and earth barrier. Boom! All of a sudden, the ball of light started to change. It started to distort. A simple and unadorned door gradually took shape in the flames. Since it could not be repaired, then it would be blocked. This Dao door was formed by the Panga's origin of the ancestral magus. It was used to block the gap in the heaven and earth barrier. However, it could block the aura of chaos that was surging over, but it could not block the attack of the chaos demon god. Clang! Clang! This Dao door began to shake violently. Through the heaven and earth barrier, one could clearly see that the chaos demon god outside the primordial world was crazily attacking this Dao door. Several tiny cracks could be seen with the naked eye, appearing on the body of the Dao door. The Dao door was about to collapse. At the critical moment, Tai Di Jun stood up. The primordial world is not only the witch race's primordial world, but also the demon race's primordial world. Now that the apocalypse has descended, how can we let the magus race monopolize the limelight? Fellow Taoists, Tai Di Jun, go! As soon as he finished speaking, two huge suns appeared. Tai Di Jun sacrificed his origin and turned it into an unbelievable power that was injected into the Dao door. In an instant, the Dao door turned from illusion to reality and was truly born. Terrifying fluctuations were emitted from the Dao door, shaking the past, present, and future, shattering all the divine abilities of the chaos demon god. Connate cardinal treasure. This fluctuation was definitely a connate cardinal treasure. This Dao door gathered the connate origins of 3 primordial chaos Daluo Jinxian and 5 perfected sage-to-be cultivators. As soon as it was born, it was a connate cardinal treasure. Moreover, it was a top-tier connate cardinal treasure with 49 connate divine restrictions. Because of their origins, whether it was Tai Di Jun or the ancestral magus, their essences were too high, far exceeding their own realm. This led to them being able to create connate cardinal treasures that far exceeded their own level. The moment the Dao door was formed, the heaven and earth barrier returned to calm. The violent chaos outside the realm could no longer pose a threat to the primordial world. Interesting. It's getting more and more interesting. Seeing this scene, the chaos demon god was not angry. Instead, he showed an interested expression. Open for me. A chaos demon god suddenly appeared in his huge true body. Holding a chaos spiritual treasure in his hand, he slammed it toward the Tao door. The chaos fiend gods who revealed their true forms were in their strongest state. After all, the primordial world was not the home of the demon gods. Just now, they were suppressed by the heaven and earth, so they barely fought to a draw with Tian Dao Hongjun. But now they were in the chaos, the home of the chaos demon gods. Here, they would be blessed by the chaos and erupt with their strongest power. Clang! The Dao door was not damaged, but the door was directly blasted open by this blow. Rumble! The wild chaos chi surged forward once again. Seal! Tian Dao Hongjuan's movements were extremely fast. As soon as the Dao door opened, he used a great divine power to seal it. Then, everyone reacted and pushed the door together, wanting to close the Dao door. But it was useless. The chaos demon god's attack was too fierce. They used their own chaos spiritual treasures, each of which had the power of a connate cardinal treasure or even stronger. Not to mention closing the Dao door, even the Dao door itself was in danger of shattering. Today, the primordial world is facing a great calamity. It's time for us to step forward and repay the kindness of giving birth to us. Children of the witch race, follow me. Chapter 5:10. At the edge of the chaos, more than 4,000 grand sorcerers of the sorcerer tribe stepped forward and pounced on the Taoist gate like moths darting into a flame. Mysterious imprints appeared on the Taoist gate. They were simple and boundless, emitting extraordinary power and stabilizing the Taoist gate. Your Majesty, we're here to accompany you. The sorcerer tribe sacrificed themselves, and so did the demon race. Apart from the 10 great demon gods, the other 4,000 demon gods sacrificed themselves and integrated into the Taoist gate. The demon race still needed the protection of the demon gods, so the 10 great demon gods could not die. Rumble! In an instant, a purple light bloomed from Dao Gate's body, completely merging with the barrier of heaven and earth around it. There was no longer any distinction between them. Then, the Taoist gate became extremely hard and emitted an immortal aura. No matter how the chaos demon gods attacked, they could not damage it at all. However, under the crazy attacks of the chaos demon gods, the open Taoist gate could not be closed no matter how hard they tried. This was the reason why the Taoist gate was not as good as the heaven and earth barrier. No matter how strong the Taoist gate was, it was still a gate for people to enter and exit. As long as it could not be closed, it was no different from not having it. Seeing the grand sorcerers and demon gods sacrificing themselves to mend the heaven and earth barrier, the powerful divines present could not help but be moved. Although the sorcerer tribe and the demon race are guilty, what they did today is not a loss. No matter how serious the crime is, it should be offset. The sorcerer tribe should not be destroyed. As the people were talking, the fate of the sorcerer tribe and the demon race had quietly changed. Originally, the sins of the sorcerer tribe and the demon race were enough to make them decline completely. However, the greatest merit was saving lives. Today, the sorcerer tribe and the demon race used the power of the entire tribe to mend the heaven and earth barrier to prevent the collapse of the primitive world. Based on this was a life-saving grace to the great desolate Aeon. No matter how serious the crime was, after the sacrifice of the sorcerer tribe and the demon race, it should be written off. In particular, Mount Buzhou was not pushed down by the sorcerer tribe and the demon race, but by all the powerful divines of the primitive world. This also made the sorcerer tribe and the demon race's sins were not as serious as imagined. At the very least, although the witches and demons were guilty of the great calamity of the untainted land, they were not the only ones to be blamed. The rest of the great mediums should also be remembered. It wasn't all the liches and demons' fault, but they had given everything. This was merit. Their merits offset their faults, so it was normal for them to let the shamans and demons go. Moreover, without the grand magi and demon immortals, it would be difficult for the magi and demon immortals to cause any waves in the primordial world. They were no longer worthy of the attention of the heavenly Tao and the saints. In the depths of the void, in a mysterious and unknown place, where the river of destiny lies, the tributary of fate that represented the shamans and demons had long been covered by a thick aura of resentment and was pitch black. But today, as the shamans and demons used their clans to mend the gap in the sky, the pitch-black tributary of fate changed. A ray of light was born from nothingness, piercing through the darkness and illuminating the path for the shamans and demons. Rumble! When the resentment that enveloped the tributary of fate of the shamans and demons encountered this light, it melted like snow and instantly disappeared without a trace. The future of the shaman and demon race was rejuvenated. Outside the door of the shamans and demons, the Chaos Fiend Celestial immediately knew that this door was the only way to enter the primordial world. At that moment, his attacks became even crazier. He could not let the other party close the door. Yes, that door was formed by the shamans and demons. Therefore, everyone called it the Gate of Shamans and Demons to praise the contributions that the shamans and demons had made to the primordial world. Without the experts of the shamans and demons, the strength of the primordial world suddenly plummeted. Facing the increasingly crazy Chaos Fiend Celestial, they were under more and more pressure. But fortunately, although the Tai Dijiang had died, their Dharma treasures were still there. The bell of chaos vibrated non-stop, and an incomparably majestic power erupted, suppressing the earth, fire, water, and wind, destroying the chaos. The primordial world geomancy map trembled, and a magnificent world slowly unfolded, emitting an incomparably heavy aura that crushed everything. It was because of these two connate cardinal treasures that the pressure that everyone was facing was greatly reduced. That was why they could persist under the crazy attacks of the Chaos Fiend Celestial. Primordial World. Mount Buzhou. Damn it! After killing the 7 saints again, the Chaos Fiend Celestial cursed with an ugly expression. As time passed, the originally incomparably powerful Chaos Fiend Celestial gradually fell into a disadvantage. Although he could still kill the 7 saints, it was far less easy than before. He even had to pay the price of blood to kill them. In the end, the reason was that the 7 saints could be resurrected continuously. With the primordial world's way as a backing, the 7 saints could always be at their peak. But the Chaos Fiend Celestial was different. Their physical bodies had long been killed by Pangu, leaving only their indestructible true spirits. After that, they had been suppressed by Mount Buzhou for countless years. Without replenishing their strength, they had long fallen to the freezing point. Now that they had just broken out of the seal, they had fallen into a bitter battle with the 7 saints before they had time to replenish their strength. As a result, their strength had been declining, and they were gradually no match for the 7 saints. The primordial world's way is indeed something. Fellow Taoists, let's leave. It won't be too late to settle accounts with them when our strength recovers in the future. If we delay any longer, it will be disadvantageous to us. The Chaos Fiend Celestial was not a hothead. Seeing that things were not going well, he had the intention to leave. Okay, let's go. Without hesitation, the Chaos Fiend Celestial took advantage of the gap between the resurrection of the 7 saints and rushed out of the sky, wanting to rush back to the primordial world outside the realm. Unfortunately, almost all the experts of the primordial world were at the edge of the primordial world. The Chaos Fiend Celestial glanced at them from afar and then turned to leave. They could defeat them, but once they were delayed there, they would be exhausted to death by the people of the primordial world. Therefore, the Chaos Fiend Celestial did not want to be entangled with them and turned to leave. Fellow Taoists, we can't leave. Why don't we reincarnate into the primordial world and turn it upside down? Moreover, Panga broke open the primordial world in order to evolve the supreme Great Tao fruit. We can lurk in the primordial world and snatch the Great Tao fruit when it matures, taking away Panga's creation. His countless years of hard work will all be made into a wedding dress for us. Or we can destroy it and turn Panga's countless years of hard work into flowing water. Only in this way can the hatred in my heart be appeased. Suddenly, a Chaos Fiend Celestial said hatefully. This was the Wisdom Fiend Celestial. Among the 3,000 Chaos Fiend Celestials, his strength was not considered top-notch and could only be said to be at the middle level. However, he was one of the top figures among the Chaos Fiend Celestials. This was because he did not rely on strength to establish himself, but on wisdom to establish himself in the primordial world. With his supreme wisdom, he made himself at the upper level of the Chaos Fiend Celestials with ordinary strength. Unfortunately, he was unlucky to have met the ridiculously strong Pangu. In the face of absolute strength, all schemes and tricks were nothing. No matter how many schemes you have, I will break them with my strength. Therefore, the devil god of wisdom suffered a tragedy. Before his wisdom could be put to use, he was chopped to death by Panga's axe. What fellow Taoist wisdom said makes sense. Anyway, we can't leave the primordial world now. Why don't we directly reincarnate and seize Panga's good fortune? Who knows, Panga's hard work will all benefit us. The Wisdom Fiend Celestial's words were quite popular among the Chaos Fiend Celestials. Making Pangu pay the price was something they had been thinking about since they were killed. For this, the Chaos Fiend Celestials were willing to pay any price. Therefore, the Chaos Fiend Celestials took action one after another. Fellow Taoists, I can feel the world formed by my remnant body. I have to rush there immediately and seize the ruling power of that world to recover my strength and prepare for revenge on Pangu in the future. Goodbye. A Chaos Fiend Celestial carefully sensed for a while and suddenly turned his head to say to the Fiend Celestials. Then, without looking back, he flew in a certain direction in the depths of the void. That was where a certain upper-class world was located. And that upper-class world was formed by the remnant body of this Chaos Fiend Celestial. It was also because of this that he could find traces of this upper-class world under the shield of the Heavenly Tao. 50 Dian, 40 to 90% of the Tao, one of them escaped. Therefore, the Heavenly Tao was incomplete, and everything had a chance of survival. If the Heavenly Tao was incomplete, how could it block the Chaos Fiend Celestial's perception of his own body? Therefore, this was the Chaos Fiend Celestial's chance of survival. Moreover, it could not be said. This was a method deliberately left behind by the great god Pangu. One had to know that if the Chaos Fiend Celestial reincarnated into the primordial world, it would definitely increase the origin of the primordial world and bring unimaginable benefits to this world. Even if Pangu evolved the Tao fruit of the great Tao, the success rate would also increase a lot after the Chaos Fiend Celestial reincarnated into the primordial world. With Panga's realm, he would definitely think of such a huge benefit and would never let it go. The purpose of suppressing the Chaos Fiend Celestial under Mount Bujo might be to force the Chaos Fiend Celestial to reincarnate into the primordial world. Otherwise, with Panga's means, he should have many ways to deal with the Chaos Fiend Celestial. Why would he suppress him under Mount Bujo and leave such a huge hidden danger to the primordial world? For Pangu, pursuing the eternal realm of the great Tao was his lifelong pursuit. For this, he had given up everything. Therefore, in order to seek a breakthrough, it was not impossible for him to use the power of the Chaos Fiend Celestial. What about the Chaos Fiend Celestial? They might be well aware of Panga's scheme. But they had no other choice. If they wanted freedom, they could only follow the route that Pangu had arranged for them and bite the bullet. But the Chaos Fiend Celestial, of course, he was unwilling to accept it. But they were not in a hurry. It was not a big deal to be at a disadvantage now. When the primordial world evolved to the extreme and the Tao fruit of the great Tao appeared, it would be a good time to determine the winner. The Tao fruit of the great Tao represented the extreme realm of the great Tao. No matter who refined it, they could cultivate to the eternal and indestructible realm of the great Tao. That was the ultimate purpose of Pangu's creation of the primordial world. As long as he took away the Tao fruit of the great Tao, he could take away Pangu's good fortune and make everything that Pangu had done become his wedding dress. Chapter 5:11. Who wouldn't be tempted by such a treasure? Of course, the Chaos Fiend God was tempted. Therefore, that was why they were extremely cooperative with Pangu. They reincarnated into the primitive world. Their purpose was to compete for the great Tao fruit. If they didn't enter the primitive world, how could they compete with Pangu for the great Tao fruit? When the Tao fruit appeared, everyone would rely on their own abilities. It was still unknown who would win. Pangu. He might not be the final winner. Pangu was very confident in his own strength. He thought that he was invincible under the great Tao. Only then did he boldly pull the Chaos Fiend God into the primitive world and evolve the great Tao fruit for him. He wasn't afraid that the other party would take away his achievements. However, the Chaos Fiend God obviously didn't think so. He thought that he might be able to snatch Pangu's good fortune from the tiger's mouth. As for the result, the Chaos Fiend God was better, making Pangu's years of hard work become a wedding dress for him. Pangu defeated all the heroes and successfully achieved the ultimate realm of the great Tao of eternity. It all depended on their own methods. Just like that, the Chaos Fiend gods each had their own plans and reincarnated. And the worlds they chose were the greater 1,000 worlds that were formed from their broken bodies. If Feng Zichen saw this scene, what would he think? He racked his brains to send the human race's geniuses to the 3,000 worlds in order to control these worlds, form a situation where the countryside surrounded the cities, and take down the primitive world in one fell swoop. But unfortunately, man proposes, God disposes. The reincarnation of the Chaos Fiend God completely disrupted his plan. However, even if Feng Zichen knew, he probably wouldn't say anything. The reincarnation of the Chaos Fiend God in the Great Thousand World might not be a bad thing for the human race's geniuses. Under a huge crisis, people could often unleash unimaginable potential. With the threat of the Chaos Fiend God, there would definitely be a group of unimaginable experts among the humans who went to the 3000 worlds. Although there would definitely be a large number of human geniuses who would die. However, how could there be no deaths in cultivation? Once one embarked on the path of cultivation, one was destined to linger on the edge of life and death. However, with the reincarnation of the Chaos Fiend God, it was certain that Feng Zichen's fantasy of having 3,000 sector masters gathered together would be impossible. No one could snatch the position of sector lord from the hands of the Chaos Demon God. This was because, in the eyes of the will of the great wide world, the Chaos Demon God was the god of creation. Under such circumstances, there was still someone who could snatch away the position of the realm lord. If that was the case, then this human prodigy really had the potential to attain the Tao. He was a prodigy among prodigies, and was not inferior to the likes of the three pure ones. The main reason why Feng Zichen was not worried was that even the Chaos Fiend God could not violate the basic rules of the untainted land. No matter how powerful the demon god of chaos was before his reincarnation, as long as he was not as powerful as Pangu, he would have to follow the rules set by the untainted land after his reincarnation. His strength could not exceed that of Tai Jingxian. Specifically, please refer to Yang Mei. As one of the top existences among the Chaos Fiend gods, after reincarnating into the untainted land, he actually had to compete with a group of connate saints. This showed the suppression of the heavenly Tao on him. And these Chaos Fiend gods' cultivation levels were not as high as Yang Mei's. Moreover, the world he reincarnated in was far inferior to the untainted land. It was already very good that he could retain the strength of the Tai Jingxian realm. As for the human prodigies, the lowest cultivation level was a golden immortal. If he was careful, he would be fine. Nearly 3,000 Chaos Fiend gods reincarnated into the untainted land. When their true spirits collapsed, it immediately brought great changes to the untainted land. The origin of heaven and earth increased exponentially. The first thing that changed was the target of the reincarnation of the Chaos Fiend gods, the 3,000 great wide worlds. In the blink of an eye, they completed their evolution and entered the mature stage. They reached the limit that the great wide worlds could reach, and even showed signs of going one step closer. And then the untainted land changed. With the increase of the origin of heaven and earth, the barrier of heaven and earth faintly showed signs of expanding. Its power increased, and at the same time, it became stronger. However, the increase of the origin of heaven and earth brought not only good things to the untainted land, but also bad things. That was, the apocalyptic calamity that was wreaking havoc in the untainted land was even stronger. It even affected the western land and the netherworld realm deep underground. It looked like it would not stop until the untainted land was destroyed. This scene shocked the 7 saints who were about to go to the edge of the chaos to help the heavenly Tao. They stopped in their tracks and hurriedly stabilized the untainted land. The Taiji painting transformed into a huge golden rainbow bridge that spanned between heaven and earth. It suppressed the riot of yin and yang and the 5 elements, carried the heaven realm, and stopped its falling momentum. As for the Grand Pure One, he stood on the golden bridge. He used his great divine ability to repair the shattered mountains and rivers. The heavenly Lord of Primordial Beginning waved the Pangu banner continuously, activating streaks of Chaos Sword Chi to destroy the Chaos Chi and the storm of destruction to prevent the spread of the disaster. The Grandmaster of Heaven took out the 4 immortal vanquishing swords and used the array to devour the tribulation Chi and murderous aura in the world. He used the 4 swords to kill the ferocious beasts and evil gods that were destroying the primordial world. As for the cosmic cauldron, it became extremely huge under the control of the Nuwa. It was like a huge mouth that could swallow the sky. It swallowed the chaos chi wantonly and refined it into connate essence to rebuild the universe. The Lady of Earth hurriedly rushed back to the netherworld and personally guarded the 6 paths of reincarnation to prevent anyone from interfering with the reincarnation. At the same time, she also prevented the apocalyptic calamity from affecting the netherworld. If the primordial world was really destroyed, the netherworld might be the only place for all living beings to rest in. He could not lose it. As for the two saints Zhu and Ti, because they did not have connate cardinal treasures, they turned the 12th grade merit golden lotus into a boat of salvation. They roamed the great tribulation and led all living beings to the west to seek refuge. At that moment, compared to the east, although the west was also wreaking havoc, it was far from serious. Bastard! Damn it! Seeing the actions of the two saints, the three pure ones, Nuwa and the others, who were saving the world, were so angry that their faces changed color. These two people were really bastards. In the face of the great calamity, they did not forget to plot for the West and make a fortune from the disaster and dig the foundation of the East. It was not the right time. Otherwise, the four of them would definitely teach the receiving Zhu and Ti a lesson. The receiving Zhu and Ti had chosen a good time. Although they had led all living beings to the West, they were indeed saving all living beings from fire and water. As a result, even if the three pure ones did not like the receiving Zhu and Ti's actions, they could not stop him. However, in their hearts, he secretly remembered what happened today. When they found an opportunity in the future, they would teach them an unforgettable lesson. The two people from the West who were leading all living beings naturally sensed the dissatisfaction of the three pure ones and the others. However, they did not care about that. Chapter 5:12. The people of the East had been dissatisfied with the two of them for more than a day or two. But, so what? They still couldn't do anything to them. Therefore, the two of them didn't take the dissatisfaction of the three pure ones to heart at all. They continued to do their own thing and happily received the living beings of the East. In the hearts of these two, there was nothing that they cared more about than the prosperity of the Western sect. After all, this was related to their path of Tao and the position of saint. In this great calamity of heaven and earth, the two saints of the West made a fortune and received a large number of living beings from the East, laying a deep foundation for the rise of the Western sect in the future. It could be said that most of the reasons for the prosperity of the Western sect in the future began with the great calamity of the primordial world. At the same time, as the Chaos Demon God reincarnated and left, the battle at the barrier of heaven and earth came to an end. Many fellow Taoists who were sealed in the primordial world have escaped. It's time for us to leave. Now, the origin of the primordial world has greatly increased. If we continue to fight, it will be disadvantageous to us. We won't be able to gain any advantage. Why don't we return? A chaos demon god looked at the barrier of heaven and earth that was getting stronger and stronger and said in a deep voice. That's true. Our goal has been achieved. We should indeed leave. Moreover, if we continue to fight, the primordial world will really be destroyed. That won't do. Another chaos demon god said leisurely. From the meaning of his words, it was obvious that he didn't want to destroy the primordial world. Terrifying. Too terrifying. On the side of the primordial world, the chaos demon god, who had to go all out to block, actually didn't use his full strength. This was really too terrifying. Fortunately, the voice of the chaos demon god, after being weakened by the chaos, it didn't reach the ears of the people of the primordial world. Otherwise, it would really be a bolt from the blue. However, it made sense. It was normal for these chaos demon gods to retain some strength. Otherwise, they were really too weak. One had to know that these chaos demon gods in the chaos were different from the chaos demon gods suppressed by Pangu under Mount Bujo. They weren't dead. They were real. Their strength, each of them, far exceeded the primordial chaos realm. Otherwise, he wouldn't have survived Pangu's axe. If not for the heaven and earth barrier, they would have long destroyed the primordial world. This time, it was an opportunity for them to destroy the untainted land. However, they did not do so. Instead, they found an opportunity to release their fellow Taoists who had been sealed in the past. After that, he only caused some trouble for the primordial world and did not kill them. The reason why they did that was not because they were afraid of Pangu, nor was it because they pitied the primordial world. It was because of the Tao fruit that had yet to be born. They coveted the fruit of Tao that could allow one to attain eternal Tao. Therefore, they would not let the primordial world be destroyed. At the very least, the primordial world could not be destroyed before the great Tao fruit was born. As for why they attacked the primordial world, he was exerting pressure on the primordial world to accelerate the evolution of the primordial world. After all, only when there was pressure would there be motivation. If they waited for the untainted land to slowly evolve on its own, No one knew how long they would have to wait for the birth of the Tao fruit of the great Tao. Let's go, let's go. Let's go back and prepare first. After the primordial world survives this great calamity, we will give him a big gift. Anyway, the gate of witchcraft is standing there. As long as we want to, we can break through this gate and enter the primordial world at any time. Ha ha. The few chaos demon gods gradually left the place as they chatted and laughed. Only laughter was left on the spot. Phew. Sensing the departure of the chaos demon gods, the people of the primordial world who were guarding behind the gate of witchcraft heaved a long sigh of relief. Then, without hesitation, they hurried to the primordial world. The calamity from the chaos had been resolved. However, there was still a great calamity waiting for them to deal with in the primordial world. The Bell of Chaos and the primordial geomancy map, the two connate cardinal treasures, also broke through the chaos space and went to the primordial world to suppress the great calamity. As for Hong Jun, he did not leave. He still stayed beside the gate of witchcraft. Firstly, it was not the time for him to appear. With the 7 saints and the many powerful beings of the primordial world, the great calamity was over. They were fully capable of solving it. As for him, he only needed to appear at the last moment to punish everyone and retrain the world. Secondly, he still needed to seal the gate of witchcraft. Otherwise, the chaos demon gods could open this door at any time and use it to freely travel to and from the primordial world. In this way, the primordial world would become the backyard of the chaos demon gods. They could come and go as they pleased. There was no safety at all. This would not do. It had to be sealed. Moreover, this was not enough. He had to have someone guard here to prevent any changes. Only then would it be safe. Clang! The bell of chaos rang loudly. A majestic power erupted, suppressing the earth, fire, water, and wind. Buzz! The primordial geomancy map directly integrated into the primordial world. While strengthening the primordial world, it also removed the tribulation aura in the primordial world. The powerful beings of the primordial world also rushed back from the chaos. Each of them used shocking methods to repair the primordial world or save the living beings of the primordial world. With the combined efforts of everyone, the great calamity of the world, there was a trend of relief. Everything was moving in a good direction. However, everyone knew in their hearts that what they were doing now seemed to be effective. But in fact, they were treating the symptoms and not the root cause. As long as the heaven realm was still sinking, the boundless starry sky had not been repaired, and the Zhoshing had not returned to its position, there would be no new pillars appearing in the world. The great calamity of the world could erupt again at any time. And it was even more intense than before. In fact, in everyone's hearts, they all knew how to resolve the great calamity of the world this time. However, they were unwilling to do it. This method was actually very simple. Someone had to sacrifice themselves to stabilize the primordial world. Just like at the end of the ancient times, the 4 poles of the primordial world were out of balance, and the world was in danger of collapsing. The ancestral dragon and the others did not hesitate to sacrifice themselves and turn into the sacred beasts of the 5 elements to stabilize the primordial world. The danger of the world was immediately resolved. Just like just now, the witches and demons used their bodies to repair the gap in the sky curtain and turned into the gate of witchcraft. They blocked the chaos demon gods outside the primordial world and resolved the crisis of the primordial world. If there was a powerful being who sacrificed himself now, he would definitely be able to resolve this great calamity. However, no one walked out. They were all watching. Firstly, the matter had not reached the point of no return. Perhaps they would be able to think of another way to resolve this crisis if they waited a little longer. Secondly, they were all waiting for someone else to take the lead. What if someone could not help but take the lead to sacrifice themselves? Then they would not have to sacrifice themselves, right? It was better to wait. If no one really stepped forward, it would not be too late for them to step forward. Billions of years of bitter cultivation was not something that anyone could easily give up. No matter how conflicted those powerful beings were, Feng Zichen could not care less. He was now in big trouble and could not even protect himself. It was precisely because of this that he could not step forward when the primordial world was facing such a situation. Hee. I didn't expect it. I really didn't expect it. I actually saw a creature of chaos in the primordial world, and it was a creature of chaos with the bloodline of Pangu. It really shocked me. How did you pass through the barrier of heaven and earth, rush to the primordial world, and hide from the eyes and ears of the heavenly Tao to occupy the Emperor Star? Looking at Feng Zichen hiding in the Emperor Star, the star demon god asked curiously. How many years had it been? He had never seen such an interesting creature. F*CK. 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 At this moment, Feng Zichen's mentality was about to explode. He had never expected that a chaos fiend god would come knocking on his door while he was happily watching the show from the side. When he first saw this chaos demon god, Feng Zichen had a breakdown. The place where he was could be said to be one of the most secretive places in the primordial world. Other than the heavenly Tao, no one could find this place. In fact, that was indeed the case. The demon clan had searched the boundless starry sky several times, but they could not find this place. It could be seen that it was hidden. But now, it had been found by a chaos demon god. It was really depressing. Feng Zichen knew this demon god. It was the star demon god. His strength was one of the best among the chaos demon gods. Pangu had killed him several times, but he could not kill him completely. The boundless starry sky was formed by the origin of heaven and earth and his origin. This place was like his home. Therefore, he was able to find this place. Speaking of which, there was a fate between Feng Zichen and the star demon god. He was able to create new things on the Tao of Stars because he had obtained the inheritance of the star demon god. When the boundless starry sky was destroyed, the seal used by the demon clan to seal the Emperor Star was also broken at the same time. Otherwise, even the star demon god would have to spend some effort to enter this place. As one of the strongest chaos demon gods, the star demon god's methods were naturally not simple. When he had just escaped the seal, he had sensed that there were 3 places in the primordial world that had an inexplicable connection with him. So, when he reincarnated, the star demon god split into 3 and pounced on these 3 places at the same time. Eggs could not be placed in one basket. Of course, he could not only prepare one way out. He had to consider defeat before the battle. Leaving a way out for himself in advance was the foundation of the star demon god. In this way, even if he failed on one side, he still had 2 ways out and could make a comeback at any time. Junior, why don't you say anything? Seeing that Feng Zichen did not answer his question and was stunned on the spot, the star demon god said with some displeasure. Senior, Feng Zichen was about to answer, but the star demon god interrupted impatiently. It doesn't matter if you don't say it. As long as I swallow you, I will naturally know everything. With that, the star demon god smiled ferociously and pounced on Feng Zichen. Junior, offer your innate Taoist embryo to me. When the star demon god saw Feng Zichen's Ziwei Taoist embryo again, he decided to take it away. This innate Taoist embryo seemed to contain hundreds of millions of stars, which matched his attributes. Chapter 5:13. Moreover, what was more shocking was that this Taoist fetus was filled with the aura of the Way of Heaven and Pangu's aura, which showed its extraordinariness. It was obvious that the creature born from this innate Taoist fetus was definitely the top existence in the untainted land. According to the estimation of the star demon god, the creature in the Taoist fetus was not much worse than the chaos demon god. If he could get this innate Taoist fetus and reincarnate himself as the creature in the Taoist fetus, the star demon god would have a perfect start in the untainted land. The chances of fighting for the Tao fruit in the future would undoubtedly be much higher. Thinking of this, the star demon god became more and more excited. When he pounced on Feng Zichen, his aura became sharper. Now, the star demon god even regretted it. If he had known that there was such an innate Taoist fetus in the boundless starry sky, he would not have split his true spirit and come directly in his peak state. Humph! You're courting death. On the other side, seeing the star demon god pouncing on him, Feng Zichen snorted disdainfully and did not take it seriously at all. He admitted that when he suddenly saw the star demon god just now, he was indeed a little frightened. However, this was normal. The power of the chaos demon god was deeply rooted in people's hearts. Even Tao ancestor Hong Jun had to be cautious when he saw it, let alone Feng Zichen. Therefore, he did not react for a moment. It was normal to be frightened by the chaos demon god. However, Feng Zichen had experienced a lot. After a slight shock, he came to his senses. The chaos demon god in front of him was not the chaos demon god in his peak state, but a cripple of the cripples. Its power had already fallen to the bottom. If they were to really fight, it would be hard to tell who was stronger between the two of them. Therefore, seeing the star demon god pouncing on him, Feng Zichen was not afraid at all. Instead, he was a little excited. This was the star demon god. If he could devour him, it would bring him great benefits. At the very least, he would have the origin to repair the boundless starry sky after refining the star demon god. Well, at the same time, he needed the origin to be born. As well as the last bit of opportunity that the Zhouxing painting lacked, it would be enough. How was this a star demon god? This was clearly a treasure trove that had delivered itself to his doorstep. With that thought in mind, Feng Zichen became more and more excited. His eyes glowed green as he looked at the star devil god with endless greed. Good girl. Is this junior sick in the head? That gaze is truly horrifying. The star demon god, who was rushing to the Emperor Star, suddenly saw Feng Zichen's eyes and felt his hair stand on end. However, he did not care too much about it. He was a chaos demon god, the most honorable and powerful existence in the world. If he couldn't even take down an unborn Khanate saint, he would be too ashamed to stay in this world. Even if his strength had long fallen to the bottom, it was still the same. Chaos demon god. Naturally, he had his own pride. Great Tao Furnace. In the Emperor Star Tao fetus, Feng Zichen formed a seal with both hands, connecting the Tao of heaven and earth, and using the supreme great magic, the Great Tao Furnace. This was a great magic that he deduced by referring to the Great Tao. It was also one of the few great magic that could cause fatal damage to the Chaos Demon God. On the spiritual battlefield, Feng Zichen, who had fought with the mark of the Chaos Demon God for many years, had already summed up a lot of experience on how to kill the Chaos Demon God. It could be said that, when it came to understanding the Chaos Demon God, except for themselves, in the primordial world, no one else could surpass Feng Zichen. Rumble. On the Emperor Star, boundless star power gathered and gradually condensed into a huge furnace, suppressing the star demon god. Good magic. Good method. Junior, it seems that I have underestimated you. The star demon god suddenly stopped his body and looked at the great Tao furnace with a solemn face, carefully on guard. As a chaos demon god, the star demon god was naturally very familiar with the aura of the great Tao. Therefore, when he saw the great Tao furnace for the first time, he understood the essence of this magic. It definitely had the ability to severely injure or even kill him. If he was in his prime, he naturally wouldn't be afraid of the great Tao furnace. But the problem was that he wasn't now. Therefore, of course, he had to be careful to avoid capsizing in the gutter. Break. The star demon god thought for a moment and suddenly formed a seal with his hands. He drew the remaining power of the boundless starry sky and blasted it toward the great Tao furnace. Seeing this, Feng Zichen was shocked and angry. The boundless starry sky was already on the verge of shattering. If it collided with the great Tao furnace, the terrifying recoil might be the last straw that broke the camel's back, causing the boundless starry sky to completely collapse, leading to a series of problems. Therefore, Feng Zichen didn't dare to take it head-on. He quickly changed his attack to retreat and even held back some of his power, allowing the star demon god to attack. Boom! One side attacked strongly, while the other side was cautious. The outcome was obvious. The great Tao furnace was blasted into pieces on the spot. However, he was afraid of hurting the Ziwei Taoist fetus. After the great Tao furnace was shattered, the star demon god held back some of his power and didn't hurt Feng Zichen. Shameless! Looking at the star demon god, Feng Zichen scolded. He really didn't expect the star demon god to be so shameless. Ha ha! Junior, this battle is about life and death. Of course you have to do everything you can. What's wrong with me doing this? You, on the other hand, still need to learn more. With a loud laugh, the star demon god continued to rush toward Feng Zichen. Old thief! You are really shameless. The star demon god didn't feel ashamed. Instead, he looked proud. This really made Feng Zichen gnash his teeth in anger. But he couldn't refute anything. Because what the star demon god said made sense. A battle of life and death should be like this. What was wrong was that he didn't expect the chaos demon god to be so shameless. Old thief, since you are courting death, I will fulfill your wish. Looking at the star demon god who took the initiative to pounce on him, Feng Zichen made up his mind and made a decision. He took the initiative to let go of all his defenses and let the star demon god enter the Ziwei star. Since the star demon god could mobilize the power of the boundless starry sky, it meant that ordinary methods were useless against him. If he wanted to kill him, he could only rely on external forces. And Feng Zichen had this external force. What kind of place was the Ziwei star? It was formed by Pangu's ancestral aperture, the residence of his true spirit in the past, and the way of the heavens was born from it. A place as noble as the Ziwei star could be said to be one of the most important places in the primitive world. Here, the power of the way of the heavens and Pangu's mighty power was everywhere. It could be said that there were dangers everywhere. The star demon god rushed in foolishly. He didn't even need Feng Zichen to take the initiative to kill him. All kinds of forces that filled the place could kill him. With his current strength, he couldn't even walk in front of the Ziwei Taoist fetus, let alone take over the nest and reincarnate. Previously, the reason why Feng Zichen didn't want to use this power was that he wanted to have a real fight with the Chaos Demon God to verify his Taoist path and seek a better opportunity. The Chaos Demon God was a manifestation of the Great Way. Not to mention fighting with him. Just looking at him from afar was a great opportunity. Now, Feng Zichen had the opportunity to fight with the Chaos Demon God. How could he give up easily? If he could fight with him and verify what he had learned, perhaps his opportunity to break through the primordial chaos Dalio Jinxian would come. Unfortunately, the Star Demon God was too bad. He actually used the boundless starry sky to threaten Feng Zichen. As a result, he changed his mind and wanted to use the power of the Ziwei star to directly kill the Star Demon God. Sigh. Although it was a great pity that he couldn't fight with the Chaos Demon God. But if he could refine it, it would be a great opportunity. It wasn't that he didn't gain anything. It was just a pity. The combination of the two could definitely push him to the realm of the primordial chaos Dalio Jinxian. Now that he only had half of it, the effect would undoubtedly be greatly reduced. He could only achieve half primordial chaos. The primordial chaos opportunity was gone just like that. No one would be in a good mood. Therefore, Feng Zichen vented all the unhappiness in his heart on the culprit of all this, the Star Demon God. Seeing that Feng Zichen had let go of all his defenses, the Star Demon God didn't suspect anything. Perhaps he had absolute confidence in his strength. He swaggered into the Ziwei star. Then, he suffered a tragedy. Sensing the invasion of an unfamiliar aura, the power of the way of heaven that filled the Ziwei star and Panga's mighty power erupted on the spot. Waves of terrifying power came from the void and fiercely blasted at the Star Demon God. Oh no! In the blink of an eye, the face of the Star Demon God, who had been full of confidence, completely changed. He became extremely terrified. This was because he felt an extremely familiar aura from these attacks. It was the aura that belonged to Pangu. Although the power of the way of heaven was powerful, the Chaos Demon God didn't take it seriously at all. But facing Pangu it was different. Although the Chaos Demon God usually looked like he was going to fight Pangu to the death at any time, in fact, it was because Pangu wasn't by their side. Naturally, they could boast with all their might. But once Pangu really appeared in front of them, they would probably run faster than anyone else. After all, in the battle of splitting open the sky, Pangu had left a deep impression on the Chaos Demon Gods. That invincible figure was deeply imprinted in the hearts of the Chaos Demon Gods, making them hate and fear Pangu. It was all Pangu's fault that they ended up like this. Therefore, after sensing Pangu's power, the memories that the Star Demon God didn't want to recall were immediately evoked. Fear. Boundless fear. In the blink of an eye. It filled the heart of the Star Demon God. It forced him to not even dare to think of resisting. He hurriedly fled to the outside world. Pangu. That voice was filled with fear. It had already changed its tone, and it was even trembling. Obviously, the Star Demon God was extremely afraid of Pangu. That was true. Everyone else had been killed by Pangu once. But only his bones were strange, and he had been killed by Pangu twice in a row. How could this fear not be deep? Unfortunately, it was easy to enter, but difficult to leave. In particular, the aura of the Chaos Demon God that couldn't be dissolved on the body of the Star Demon God was the focus of the Emperor Star's defense. So, it was fine if he didn't move. But with this move, it was met with a fierce rebound from Pangu's power. It completely drew an end for this avatar of his. Rumble! An axe light came from the void, as if it had crossed the endless space and time, and appeared, gently slashing at the Star Demon God. Ah! Junior, how dare you trick me? I will never let you go. Absolutely not. In an unwilling roar, the star demon god's intelligence was destroyed by the axe light. On the spot, only a ball of the most original power was left. The boundless starry sky is saved. Seeing the origin left behind by the star demon god, Feng Zichen couldn't help but smile. The boundless starry sky was too badly damaged. More than half of the space had been swallowed by the chaos outside the sky and became a part of him. If it weren't for the three noble stars, the boundless starry sky would have been completely gone. Originally, with Feng Zichen's strength alone, it was absolutely impossible to repair the boundless starry sky. He needed everyone to work together. However, with the origin left behind by the star demon god, he had a great deal of confidence to repair the boundless starry sky alone. Don't underestimate this point. He could repair the boundless starry sky alone. He could work together with everyone to repair the boundless starry sky. The meaning it represented was completely different. At the very least, if Feng Zichen repaired the boundless starry sky alone, then he would be the well-deserved lord of the boundless starry sky. He would be more justified than Di Jun. He could even refine the entire boundless starry sky like the Nether River refining the Sea of Blood. At that time, the boundless starry sky would not be destroyed, and Feng Zichen would not die. Even the saints would not be able to do anything to him. The boundless starry sky was much more important than the Sea of Blood. No one dared to destroy it. Especially after experiencing this calamity, no one dared to do so. If he became the Lord of the boundless starry sky, wouldn't the position of the Lord of the Stars be easily obtained? Even if the saints were dissatisfied, they would have to pinch their noses and accept it. However, if everyone worked together to repair the boundless starry sky, there would be too many things to argue about. Then Feng Zichen's idea of becoming the Lord of the boundless starry sky would probably be very difficult to achieve. Therefore, if he could repair the boundless starry sky by himself, it would be better to repair it by himself. With this thought in mind, Feng Zichen shook the Ziwei Dao fetus and emitted a huge suction force, devouring all the origin left behind by the star demon god. The most important thing now was not to repair the boundless starry sky, but to break open the Ziwei Dao fetus and truly descend into the primordial world. The Ziwei Star Lord had been nurtured for so long. It was time for him to be born. Moreover, his greatest threat, Di Jun Tai, was also gone. Buzz. Buzz. After absorbing the origin of the star demon god, the Ziwei Dao fetus had completely matured. It suddenly flew out of the Ziwei star, preparing to welcome Zhouxing and the baptism of the myriad Dao of heaven and earth. In theory, it was unwise for Feng Zichen to choose to be born at this time. Because, now, heaven and earth were facing a great calamity of destruction. The stars in the heavenly cycle shattered and fell into the primordial world. Heaven and earth had completely fallen into chaos. There was no extra strength to baptize the Ziwei Dao fetus and promote his birth. Chapter 5:14. Without Zhouxing and the baptism of the myriad Dao of heaven and earth, it would definitely cause Ziwei Star Lord to be malnourished. This would cause him to have defects and be unable to be born in the most perfect state. However, how could there be perfection in the world? The more perfect it was, the more and greater the tribulations one would face in the future. Heaven and earth were not perfect. How could it tolerate perfect things being born in heaven and earth? It was not a good thing to be envied by heaven and earth. Moreover, Feng Zichen had obtained the origin of the star demon god. It might not be worse than the baptism of heaven and earth. The star demon god was the side of the great Tao that represented the stars. It was the highest achievement of the Tao of stars in the chaos. It was the most suitable attribute for Ziwei Star Lord. After devouring this item, Feng Zichen would obtain even more good fortune than the baptism of heaven and earth. He would deduce the Tao of stars to an extremely high level. However, the baptism of heaven and earth not only represented good fortune, but also the recognition of the primordial world and Zhouxing. Therefore, as long as he was still in the primordial world, the opportunity that Feng Zichen obtained from the star demon god would not be as great as the baptism of heaven and earth. However, Feng Zichen had no choice but to come out. This was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. It concerned whether he could take down the boundless starry sky in one fell swoop. If he hid for a while longer, he would really miss everything. Therefore, even if it was disadvantageous for him to come out at this time, He had to come out at this time even if he did not have the origin of the star demon god. Because this was related to his future. If he missed this opportunity and did not obtain enough capital in this apocalyptic calamity, he would have a difficult time in the primordial world in the future. It would be difficult for him to compete with other great divine abilities. After all, any great divine ability who saved the world in this calamity could be considered the savior of the primordial world after the calamity. They would receive the protection of heaven and earth. In the future, even if they did not have any taboos, it would be like the heavens were helping them. Without the corresponding capital, how could he compete with them? Therefore, Feng Zichen had to come out at this time to fight for the future opportunity for himself. A crack. It was like the sound of the great Tao. The Ziwei Dao fetus disintegrated. Feng Zichen stepped out. Rumble. The heavens and earth trembled at this moment. The myriad Daos hummed in unison, creating a boundless phenomenon, wanting to celebrate the birth of the Ziwei star sovereign. Unfortunately, the great tribulation of heaven and earth was becoming more and more intense. Before those abnormal signs could truly be born, they were shattered by the destructive aura that filled the surroundings. As a result, the birth of the Polaris Star Lord caused the heavens and earth to tremble for a moment, but no other phenomenon occurred. He couldn't even achieve the most basic resonance with Zhouxing. It could be said that the birth of the Ziwei Star Lord was the least impressive of all the connate fiend gods in the primordial era. At the very least, that was how it looked on the surface. Another innate saint has been born. Heaven and earth throbbing? Resonance of the myriad Daos? Is it the Emperor Star Lord? You're right. Only his birth can cause such a huge commotion. The trembling of the heavens and earth couldn't be hidden from those powerful beings. Therefore, they immediately sensed that a new Lord of the Stars had been born. Even Tiandao Hongjun, who was far away in the chaos, couldn't help but lower his gaze and look at his nominal younger brother. They were both born from the Ziwei star. It wasn't wrong to say that the Ziwei Star Lord was Tiandao's younger brother. Tiandao Hongjun's gaze was inexplicable. No one knew what he was thinking. Swish. After the Ziwei Dao fetus shattered, it didn't disappear. Instead, it turned into specks of light and merged into the purple thread heavenly robe that Feng Zichen was wearing. In the blink of an eye, the purple thread heavenly robe completed a transformation. It transformed from an ordinary supreme-grade innate spirit treasure to a top-grade supreme-grade innate spirit treasure. That's right. After many years of nurturing by the Ziwei star, the three treasures of the Ziwei star had changed from a superior-grade innate spirit treasure to a supreme-grade innate spirit treasure. However, because of the 10,000 spirit crown, the purple gold crown had become somewhat redundant. After all, no matter how good an innate spirit treasure was, it couldn't compare to an innate supreme treasure. Rumble. There were too many origins in the star demon god. Feng Zichen couldn't refine them all. The origins that couldn't be refined dissipated from his body. The innate supreme treasure beside Feng Zichen, the Zhouxing map, seized the opportunity to madly devour the origins of the demon god. Before long, the Zhouxing map completed its final transformation and was completely nurtured. It became a middle-grade innate supreme treasure with 47 innate divine restrictions. Even so, most of the origins of the star demon god were still preserved. Good. Grabbing the Zhouxing map, Feng Zichen exclaimed excitedly 3 times. This innate supreme treasure was the Ziwei Star Lord's lifelong supreme treasure. Therefore, Feng Zichen easily completed the refinement of the Zhouxing map. As soon as the Ziwei Star Lord was born, he had 1 innate supreme treasure and 3 supreme-grade innate spirit treasures. In the untainted world, only Tai could compare to such treatment. It could be said to be extremely noble. Since I have been born, the boundless starry sky should be restored to its original state. After collecting the remaining origins of the demon god, Feng Zichen looked at the broken boundless starry sky beside him and said with a smile, "This time, if he could use his own strength to restore the entire boundless starry sky to its original state, that could be said to be a great merit. From then on, even saints would not dare to be arrogant in front of him. They would have to respect him." Zhouxing. Star demon god, IF** king. Feng Zichen, who was about to activate Zhouxing to suppress the boundless starry sky, suddenly had a thought and couldn't help cursing. As mentioned earlier, the true spirit of the star demon god had split into 3 and gone to 3 different places. The first was the great wide world formed by its incomplete parts. The second was the boundless starry sky. As for the third, of course, it was the connate star tree. This was the connate divine tree that was born from the fusion of the star demon god's origin with the power of creation of heaven and earth. It was also considered a part of the star demon god, so it naturally could not escape his senses. The reason why Feng Zichen lost his composure was that the true spirit of the star demon god had already rushed to the small desolate world to possess the connate star tree. If it weren't for the fact that Feng Zichen had left his divine will in the small desolate world to block the star demon god with the power of the world's origin. At this moment, the connate star tree was about to be obtained by him. Damn it! With a thought, Feng Zichen was about to teleport to the small desolate world to kill the true spirit of the star demon god. But at this moment, the collapse of the heaven realm intensified, and it suddenly sank down a few degrees. Puff! The Grand Pure One, who was supporting the world, spat out a mouthful of blood on the spot. The golden bridge formed by the Taiji diagram also shrank a little because of this. And this was not the most serious thing. The most serious thing was that a series of serious consequences were caused by the further collapse of the heaven realm. For example, the world-ending calamity that had been suppressed by everyone had erupted again. Moreover, it was wreaking havoc in the primitive world in an even stronger state. Star Demon God, you're lucky this time. In the future, if I find a chance, I won't let you have an easy time. Feng Zichen knew in his heart that this was not the time to settle scores with the Star Demon God. The most important thing now was to hurry up and repair the boundless starry sky and stabilize the heaven realm. Therefore, Feng Zichen suppressed his anger and threw Hongmeng Daozhong into the small desolate world to stop the Star Demon God. He seized the time to repair the boundless starry sky. However, it was as if he was deliberately going against Feng Zichen. He was about to repair the boundless starry sky when another chaos demon god came to find trouble with him. And, compared to the previous time, it was much more troublesome. Because it was not just one chaos demon god who was looking for trouble with him. As if they had discussed it, almost at the same time, the Thunder Lock, the Ultimate Ruins, and the Nether Realm were attacked by the chaos demon god. For a moment, Feng Zichen's various incarnations were in danger. However, it was still alright. The Ultimate Ruins had a temple left behind by Pangu when he suppressed the Nirvana demon god. No matter how powerful the Chaos demon god was, it was impossible for him to break through that temple. Therefore, temporarily, the Ultimate Ruins incarnation would not encounter any danger. As for the Fengdu incarnation, he would not encounter any danger. In the Nether Realm, he was an almost invincible existence. If he really encountered the Chaos demon god, it was uncertain who would be the unlucky one. The only thing that worried him was the North Star incarnation in the Thunderlock. He did not have any means to block the attack of the Chaos demon god. However, at this moment, Feng Zichen really could not leave and could not go to the Thunderlock to help. After thinking for a while, he reached out and took off the 10,000 spirit crown on his head and threw it in the direction of the Thunderlock. Compared to the great emperor of Ziwei, the North Star Emperor, who was the Lord of Gods, was more suitable to hold the 10,000 spirit crown. After all, the stars represented the power of the heavens. As for the gods, they were transformed from humans and were more in line with the human path. He believed that with the human path's supreme treasure, the 10,000 spirit crown, even if the North Star Emperor could not defeat the Chaos demon god, he would still be able to protect himself. Something's wrong. Something's wrong with this matter? The relationship between him and his incarnations was extremely secret. No one in the primordial world knew about it. It was even more impossible for the Chaos demon god to know about it. It did not make sense for him to attack several of his incarnations at the same time. Unless all the famous mountains and rivers in the primordial world were within the attack range of the Chaos demon god. That made sense. Haha. The primordial world is getting more and more interesting. Suddenly, Feng Zichen laughed. He understood what was going on. The remnant body of the Chaos demon god had not only transformed into the 3,000 upper-class worlds, but also the various grotto heavens and blessed lands of the primordial world. Thinking about it, many Chaos demon gods had made the same decision as the Star demon god. They had split into 2 or even several groups. A portion of the indestructible true spirits had gone to the upper-class worlds that their bodies had transformed into, while a portion of the indestructible true spirits had stayed in the primordial world and had set their sights on the grotto heavens and blessed lands. Now, the owners of those grotto heavens and blessed lands were all rushing about to save the primordial world. If the chaos demon god went to rob them at this time, there was a high chance that he would succeed. He might even plot against those great divine abilities. When the apocalypse subsided, those great divine abilities would return home and find that their dojos had changed owners. Even they had been plotted against. Their expressions would definitely be interesting. Thinking of this, Feng Zichen could not help but laugh. Everyone was really unlucky. It all depended on who was unlucky. Haha. Z-Way Star, let's go. After settling everything, Feng Zichen drove the Z-Way Star to the place where he was born. That place was the center of the boundless starry sky, as well as the center of Zhousing and countless stars. However, with the collapse of the boundless starry sky, this place had long been swallowed up by the chaos beyond the heavens and became a chaotic place. If it were not for the vague feeling, Feng Zichen would not have been able to accurately find the location of this place in the chaos. He brought the Z-Way Star here to use it as a base to recall the fallen Zhousing and reconstruct the orbit of the stars to stabilize the boundless starry sky. This was easier said than done. Just recalling the fallen stars was an extremely difficult task. However, with the primordial treasure Zhousing map and the origin of the star demon god, this impossible thing was possible. In fact, what Feng Zichen should do now was to take out the world tree to support the primordial world. However, this disaster was too great. It was far beyond Feng Zichen's imagination, and also far beyond Panga's imagination. The world tree could not support the heaven realm at all. At least not now. This was because the entire heaven realm was falling down, and it was a destructive fall. In this way, if the heaven realm was not stabilized, even the primordial chaos world tree would not be able to support it, let alone the half-step primordial chaos world tree. Therefore, the world tree had to support the world. However, it was definitely not now. At the very least, he had to wait for the world to stabilize before he could take out the world tree. As for how the world tree would advance to the primordial chaos world tree, Feng Zichen had already thought about it. The half-step primordial chaos world tree would definitely not be able to support the primordial world. However, it could let those powerful people see the hope of supporting the world. In order not to become the world, those powerful people would definitely try their best to promote the world tree. The primordial world. It was not Feng Zichen's primordial world. It was everyone's primordial world. Why should he alone support the world tree? It was also time for those great magics to put in some effort. Panga meant to let the world tree support the primordial world. He did not say what method he would use. As long as the final result was successful, it would be fine. When big shots did things, they always looked at the results, not the process. Boom! The moment the Emperor Star descended into the boundless starry sky, the entire starry sky shook. Even the violent chaotic chi calmed down in an instant. Huff! Taking a deep breath, Feng Zichen mobilized all the dermic powers in his body and activated the Zhousing painting with all his might. A terrifying aura erupted from his body, shaking the heavens and the earth. Half-step primordial chaos world tree. That's right. After several battles, Feng Zichen's cultivation had once again advanced a small step, reaching the half-step primordial chaos world tree. He was not far from the primordial chaos Tao realm that transcended the world. Hiss! Half-step primordial chaos world tree. How did the Emperor Star Master do it? He has the half-step primordial chaos world tree as soon as he was born. Sensing Feng Zichen's aura, all the powerful people were shocked. Chapter 5:15. This strength was too strong. Since Pangu created the world, all the Khanate god fiends in the primordial world, including Tao ancestor Hongjun, had a cultivation base at most of the Tai Jingxian realm when they were born. They would never exceed this realm. Even the great chaos fiend god was only in the realm of Daluo Jingxian when he was born in the chaos. It was absolutely unprecedented for someone like the Emperor Star Master to have a half-step primordial chaos cultivation as soon as he was born. As soon as he was born, he surpassed countless living beings and stood at the peak of the world. In the primordial world, who knew how many powerful people were still stuck at the threshold of the quasi-sage realm, unable to take another step forward. But Z-Way Star Lord, as soon as he was born, had achieved something that others might not be able to achieve in their lifetime. This was really too enviable. Sometimes the natural disparity was just so despairing. Some people's starting point was very likely to be others' ending point. There's something wrong with this Z-Way Star-Lord. Everyone was not a fool. Z-Way Star-Lord had such strength immediately, so he naturally had secrets on him. But at this moment, the destruction of the world was imminent, and they were not in the mood to investigate the reason. If the primordial world was destroyed, then everything here would be meaningless. Even if they knew other people's secrets, so what? In the name of Z-Way Star-Lord, edict, Zhou, quickly return to your position. Standing in the center of the boundless starry sky, Feng Zichen used the authority of the Lord of the Stars and spoke. In an instant, it was a mysterious power. It came from his mouth and spread toward the primordial world. Rumble! Heaven and earth were trembling, and the laws were rumbling, corresponding to Feng Zichen's voice. This was the great magical power of the heavenly Tao, the law of the heavens. This was the innate magical power of Z-Way Star-Lord, and it could mobilize the power of the heavenly Tao. Its power was enough to change heaven and earth. Buzz buzz buzz. On the primordial world, the power of the heavenly Tao spread out. The falling fragments of Zhou trembled together. First, they slowly rose into the air, then directly crossed the void and returned to the boundless starry sky. Boom! Zhou returned to its original position in an instant. The terrifying power of the stars swept out, and the entire boundless starry sky fell silent. All the uprisings were suppressed. Star shift. Then, Feng Zichen used the North Star as the core and Zhou as the support to fully display the Star Dao's supreme divine ability, star displacement. Feng Zichen's strength was strong to begin with. With the blessing of the Emperor Star and the Zhou map, the power of the supreme great magic was pushed to the extreme by him. This move alone was enough to severely injure primordial chaos Daluo Jinxian. Using it to move stars was enough to shake the entire starry sky. Rumble! Under the power of star shifting, the stars in the sky began to revolve in a similar but slightly different trajectory. This was the Pangu's meridian diagram. The boundless starry sky had undergone countless years of evolution, as well as the transformation of the demon clan and the destruction of the wizard clan. The trajectory of Zhou had long deviated from its original trajectory and did not match the Pangu's meridian diagram. Therefore, Feng Zichen planned to take the opportunity of the collapse of the boundless starry sky to reconstruct Zhou, to create a boundless starry sky that was completely different from before, but more powerful and complete. Perfecting the trajectory of Zhou and making it run according to the Pangu's meridians was the beginning. It should be known that the Pangu's meridian diagram that Feng Zichen had mastered was more complete than the Pangu's meridian diagram hidden in the boundless starry sky. Because the Pangu's meridian diagram was divided into two parts, one in the boundless starry sky and the other in the untainted land. Only when the two parts were combined could it be the most complete Pangu's meridian diagram. Under various opportunities, Feng Zichen happened to obtain the complete Pangu's meridian diagram. Feng Zichen visualized the void as the Pangu's Taoist body. With the 365 stars in the sky as acupuncture points, he connected the stars to each other and made them rotate. An extremely blurry figure slowly took shape as the stars in the sky revolved. Suddenly, a supreme Taoist rhyme was emitted from the vague shadow. It first spread to the entire boundless starry sky and then continued to spread to the entire untainted land. Not long after, this supreme Taoist rhyme covered the entire untainted land, including the chaos outside the sky. But the strange thing was that no matter how the Taoist rhyme spread, no one in the untainted land could discover it. Success or failure, it depends on this moment. Feeling that this supreme Taoist rhyme had covered the entire untainted land, Feng Zichen could not help but feel a little nervous. That Taoist rhyme was the Pangu's Taoist rhyme that he had reverse refined through Zhou. Therefore, no one in the entire untainted land had discovered its trace. And the method that Feng Zichen used to repair the boundless starry sky was related to this Pangu's Taoist rhyme. As everyone knew, the untainted land was opened by Pangu, and the boundless starry sky was formed by his body. Therefore, if he wanted to repair the boundless starry sky, he had to find a way from Pangu. The method that Feng Zichen thought of was to use Zhou to reverse refine Pangu's power, and use it to reopen the boundless starry sky. At first, he did not know if this method would work, but this was the only way that he could think of. However, now it seemed that this method was very likely to succeed. At the very least, the first step, using Zhou to reverse refine Pangu's power, had been successful. Next, it was up to Zhou to reopen the boundless starry sky in the chaos. As Pangu's Taoist rhyme spread, all the debris of the stars in the entire untainted land, including the chaos beyond the heavens, were summoned and quickly flew toward the boundless starry sky. For a time, countless debris of the stars rose from the untainted land and flew toward the boundless starry sky. Even the debris of the stars that had fallen into the chaos beyond the heavens or been drowned by the chaos aura also broke free and returned to their positions. At this moment, everyone's nerves were very sensitive. Even a small matter was enough to attract their attention to prevent any changes. Moreover, it was a big matter that countless debris of the stars were flying toward the boundless starry sky. Thus, the crowd immediately turned their gazes to the boundless starry sky. Unfortunately, they could not see anything. All they could see was the vast chaos aura. Everyone could see through the void of the untainted land, but they could not see through the chaos aura. Otherwise, the chaos would not be so mysterious. However, although everyone could not see it, it did not prevent them from knowing what had happened. The art of divination was something that every great divine ability cultivator would know at least a little about. Ziwei Star-Lord is actually going to repair the boundless starry sky? Thinking of this, everyone could not help but be pleasantly surprised. This could be considered a rare piece of good news since the outbreak of the Great Calamity. If the boundless starry sky was restabilized, the pressure brought to everyone by the collapse of the heaven realm would undoubtedly be reduced by a lot. But immediately, a hint of worry appeared in everyone's hearts. Could Ziwei Star-Lord alone really successfully repair the boundless starry sky? It was not that they did not trust Ziwei Star-Lord, but it was too difficult to repair the boundless starry sky. Even a saint did not have this ability. Ziwei Star-Lord was only a half-step primordial chaos. How could he do something that even a saint could not do? But in everyone's hearts, there was also a faint hope. Perhaps, Ziwei Star-Lord could really succeed. If he did not have enough confidence, why would he take action to cultivate the boundless starry sky? I hope he can succeed. In short, repairing the boundless starry sky was a great thing for the primordial world. No one wanted Feng Zichen to fail. In the blink of an eye, 100 years had passed. Feng Zichen's strength was almost squeezed dry. However, his efforts were not in vain. Other than the completely shattered debris of the stars, the rest of the debris of the stars were recalled by him and floated in the boundless starry sky. If someone were to ascend to the boundless starry sky at this time, they would see, in the boundless chaos chi, there were 365 huge stars carrying countless debris of the stars. They were slowly moving according to some mysterious trajectory. If one stood higher, they would see that these Zhou arrangements were very similar to a vague human figure. Panga. According to Feng Zichen's imagination, the highest achievement of the Tao of Stars was to reverse the Panga's Tao body. At this moment, he was using real Zhou to verify his imagination. Wasn't the appearance of Pangu formed by Zhou the highest achievement of the Tao of gods and demons? However, there was a flaw in the perfection. The Panga's Tao shadow formed by Zhou was too blurry. One could barely see that it was a human figure. Furthermore, among the 365 stars, apart from the 3 noble stars, the other 362 stars were all in tatters. Not a single one of them was complete. As for the ancient stars that were second only to Zhou, other than a few that were intact, the rest were all in pieces. The debris of the stars that Feng Zichen had recalled from the primordial world were them. These stars were all shattered by the wizard tribe in the battle between the wizard tribe and the demon tribe. The first step to repairing the boundless starry sky was to find a way to repair these ancient stars. Not to mention restoring them to their original state, at the very least, they had to be restored to the state of stars. Otherwise, how could these debris of the stars operate the galaxy cosmic light array? Yes. With Feng Zichen's strength, it was impossible for him to repair these ancient stars. Therefore, he planned to use external forces. Go! Taking out the remaining star demon god's origin, Feng Zichen shattered it and scattered it into the boundless starry sky. The demon god's origin dissipated in the wind and turned into the purest star essence, merging with the ancient star debris. Rumble! The demon god's origin was indeed one of the most mysterious forces in the world. Under its effect, the star debris began to gather and reform the ancient stars. Of course, although the demon god's origin was mysterious, it was obviously impossible to repair all the ancient stars with the demon god's origin in Feng Zichen's hands. The quantity was far from enough. However, Feng Zichen's purpose was not to repair all the ancient stars, but to maintain the appearance of the stars. Even if it was only for a few years, it would be enough for him to set up the Galaxy Cosmic Light Array. As long as the Galaxy Cosmic Light Array could operate, Feng Zichen was confident that he could repair the ancient stars and the boundless starry sky. Fortunately, although the heavenly cycle of stars had been severely damaged and their foundations had been damaged, they had not been completely destroyed and could still be activated. Otherwise, just repairing Zhouxing would be enough to take Feng Zichen's life. The demon god's origin in his hands was far from enough. Galaxy Cosmic Light Array, rise. At the moment when the ancient stars were formed, Feng Zichen seized the opportunity and mobilized Zhouxing and countless ancient stars at the fastest speed to form the Galaxy Cosmic Light Array. How could it not be fast? The power of the demon god's origin was limited and could not maintain the ancient stars for a long time. If he did not hurry up, who knew when the ancient star would shatter again? Then, all of Feng Zichen's previous efforts would be in vain. Zhouxing operated quickly, bringing with it streams of light, forming a huge galaxy in the boundless starry sky. At the same time, endless starlight gathered, forming a huge halo that enveloped the boundless starry sky. Galaxy Cosmic Light. One was space, the other was time. Although this formation was made up of stars, its attribute was space-time. Although the Galaxy Cosmic Light Array and the Demon Clan's Heavenly Cycle Star Array were both formed by stars, their functions were completely different. The former was the supreme array of time and space, which was formed by Feng Zichen using stars. The latter was completely focused on space, which could suppress and refine everything. This feeling is really amazing. Feng Zichen had created the Galaxy Cosmic Light Array for a long time, but it was the first time he used Zhouxing to set up the array. Previously, he had used his own magic power to simulate Zhouxing to set up the array. Compared to the power now, it was naturally incomparable. It was not that he did not want to use Zhouxing to set up the array, but Di Jun did not allow it. As the Galaxy Cosmic Light Array gradually took shape, the boundless starry sky also underwent a wonderful change. Inexplicable images appeared from nothingness, as if they were from the past and the future. But at the same time, they all had unparalleled power. This was the true power of the Galaxy Cosmic Light Array, which connected the past, present, and future into one. At this time, no matter how one looked at it, the Galaxy Cosmic Light Array was one. There was no past, no future, only the present. Whoosh! Endless star power gathered and gradually gathered at the border of the boundless starry sky, forming a huge invisible light curtain that separated the boundless starry sky from the chaos beyond. At this point, the chaos beyond could no longer devour the boundless starry sky. After separating the two again, the next thing to do was to solve the chaos that was still in the boundless starry sky and repair Zhouxing. Turn! Feng Zichen held the Zhouxing diagram in his hand and burst out his strongest power, activating the Galaxy Cosmic Light Array with all his strength. Whoosh! In an instant, the galaxy flowed and the cosmic light rotated. The entire Galaxy Cosmic Light Array seemed to have become a huge vortex, sucking in all the chaos that was floating in the boundless starry sky. Chapter 5:16. As the chaotic gas that filled the boundless starry sky was absorbed by the Galaxy Cosmic Light Array, the boundless starry sky once again appeared in front of everyone. What is that? A vast and boundless galaxy. Looking at the Galaxy Cosmic Light Array that hovered in the center of the starry sky, everyone was puzzled and shocked. They did not need to experience the power of the galaxy personally. Just by looking at its power, they knew that it was absolutely terrifying. It seems to be an array formation. It's similar to the Demon Clan's Heavenly Cycle Star Array, but it's more mysterious and has fluctuations of time and space. Everyone was experienced and knowledgeable. After the initial shock, they could almost see the function of the Galaxy Cosmic Light Array. This was another supreme array formation that used Zhouxing as its foundation. Wait! The boundless starry sky has been repaired. Suddenly, someone noticed the invisible barrier that stood at the border of the boundless starry sky, and could not help but exclaim excitedly. Hiss! Did he really repair the boundless starry sky alone? Then this Ziwei Starmaster is too strong. No, Ziwei Starmaster has not repaired the boundless starry sky yet. He only separated the boundless starry sky from the chaos outside. But this is already enough. Ziwei Starmaster is indeed the master of the stars. His means are really amazing, far beyond what ordinary people can imagine. Seeing that the problem that had troubled them for a long time had been solved by Ziwei Starmaster, everyone was relieved that the situation of the destruction of the Chaos World had been alleviated, and they were shocked by Ziwei Starmaster's means. Although the boundless starry sky had not been completely repaired at this time, in everyone's eyes, it was almost repaired. After all, after being separated from the chaos outside, the boundless starry sky would not continue to collapse. In this way, everyone only needed to face the pressure of the heaven realm's destruction and did not need to worry about the boundless starry sky. The pressure was suddenly reduced by a lot. As for completely repairing the boundless starry sky? Don't joke. With so many stars broken, even if Ziwei Starmaster sacrificed himself, his power could not restore all of them. Therefore, to completely repair the boundless starry sky was not something that could be done overnight. This required the spontaneous adjustment of heaven and earth after the chaos world stabilized. With the combined power of many great magicians and endless years, it was possible to restore the boundless starry sky to its heyday. Unless Pangu was reborn, it would be impossible to repair the boundless starry sky in a short period of time. Hence, everyone deeply admired the Emperor Starlord for being able to do this. He was resisting the pressure of the entire boundless starry sky with his own strength, greatly reducing the pressure faced by everyone. Sure enough, as the boundless starry sky stabilized, the pressure that the heaven realm brought to everyone also lessened. Ha! The Grand Pure One seized the opportunity and activated the Taiji painting with all his might. The golden bridge immediately grew larger. Its body shone brightly and emitted shocking fluctuations. It lifted the heavenly realm and stopped it from sinking. Seeing that, Saint Jie-in did not care about receiving the living beings. He hurriedly left the world golden ship and rushed to the golden bridge to support the sky with the Grand Pure One. At the same time, the 5 elements of heaven and earth vibrated, and the shadows of the 5 elements sacred beasts appeared, releasing dazzling light. However, they sensed the great tribulation of the world. The connate 5 elements sacred beasts were born to stabilize the primordial world. In the blink of an eye, the situation was reversed. The primordial world was stabilized, and the great apocalypse tribulation showed signs of being suppressed. Unfortunately, before the first wave subsided, another wave arose. Just as the primordial world showed signs of stability, the chaos outside the heavens became chaotic again. Previously, when the heaven and earth barrier was broken, the chaos chi that surged in wantonly devoured everything around it without anyone suppressing it. It had already developed and strengthened, causing huge waves in the chaos outside the heavens. The first to bear the brunt of it was the major kiliacosm that the saints had created in the outer world. They were suffering from the crazy impact of the chaos chi. They were like small boats that had fallen into a storm and could be destroyed at any time. Fortunately, the 6 saints had become saints through merit. They all had 3 corpses in the world. With them around, they could still hold on for a period of time. It was also because the saints' world was blocking in front that the chaos chi did not rush straight to the primordial world. Otherwise, once it was attacked by the chaos chi, the great situation that the primordial world had built with great difficulty would be destroyed. At the edge of the primordial world, Heavenly Dao Hong Jun watched quietly. Even though the world was about to be destroyed, his eyes were still calm, as if all of this had nothing to do with him. I have to find the item that supports the heavens as soon as possible. The changes in the outer world naturally could not be hidden from the saint's perception. Therefore, the saint's expression changed as he said solemnly. It was only a temporary measure for them to carry the heaven realm like this. Only when they found the true item that supported the heavens could they be done once and for all. Yes. The heavenly secrets show that there's something wrong with the North Sea. Perhaps the item that supports the heavens should be there. Third brother, please make a trip. The Grand Pure One deduced for a moment and said to the Grand Master of Heaven. Saints and the Heavenly Tao were not joking. They could obtain some secrets or opportunities from the Heavenly Tao that ordinary people could not know. Yes. The Grand Master of Heaven replied and was about to go to the North Sea. However, he did not expect that at this moment, a huge tree would suddenly fly over from outer space and support the world. It was the World Tree. In the boundless starry sky, Feng Zichen saw that the primordial world was stable and knew that the time for the world tree to appear had arrived. He hurriedly took it out and sent it to the primordial world. Rumble! The world tree landed and took root. Its huge roots penetrated the ground and directly connected to the netherworld. It even grew deeper. The origin of heaven and earth gathered spontaneously and surged into the roots of the world tree to help it grow. Boom! The world tree was growing at an unimaginable speed. Soon, it reached the same height as the heavens and blocked the heaven realm. However, after that the growth of the world tree stopped. It was because the heaven realm was too heavy, and the world tree could not continue to grow. However, with the help of the world tree, the Grand Pure One and the Saint Jiayin became much more relaxed. What kind of tree is this? Even the saints could not help but be shocked when they saw the world tree. It was too extraordinary. The patterns on its body seemed to be describing the mysteries of the world. Everything around it corresponded to the Great Tao. This tree, it was like the incarnation of the Great Tao. It carried all the principles of the world. One look at it made people have the urge to comprehend the Tao. I don't know. However, although this tree is extraordinary, I'm afraid it's still not enough to support the heavens. The Grand Pure One thought for a while and said. Moreover, as he spoke, he also tried to retract some of his strength. The pressure of the heaven realm suddenly increased by several degrees. The world tree creaked as if it could not bear the burden. It seemed to be on the verge of collapsing. Saint Jiayin was even more unlucky. With a puff, he spat out a mouthful of blood. Grand Pure One, you! Saint Jiayin glared at the Grand Pure One. He was so angry that he could not speak. Speaking of which, his injury was not important. It could even be said to be close to nothing. However, after this incident, he had lost all his face. Fellow Taoist, don't blame me. Poor Wei just wanted to see the limits of the divine tree. I didn't expect to accidentally injure you, fellow Taoist. I hope you won't be angry. The Grand Pure One said calmly as he raised his strength. He was angry at Zhuan Ti's actions just now and deliberately made him look bad. Humph. Saint Jiayin snorted coldly and did not reply. He knew his own matters. Just now, the two of them had made a fortune from the disaster. It could be said that they had offended all the people in the East. This time, everyone was probably happy that the Grand Pure One had schemed against him. They would not blame the Grand Pure One at all. In fact, everyone might even praise him in their hearts. Well done. Third brother, although this divine tree is extraordinary, it has not entered the mature stage. In the future, it might be able to support the heaven realm, but now, I'm afraid it can't. Therefore, I'll have to trouble you to go to the North Sea. With the strength of the Grand Pure One, he could naturally see that the world tree was extraordinary. There were endless possibilities. However, potential could only represent the future, not the present. Just relying on this divine tree alone was obviously not enough to support the sky. He still needed the help of other things to support the sky. Yes. Senior brother, the poor Wei is going. After responding, the Grandmaster of Heaven held the Qingping sword and floated towards the North Sea. There was a huge black turtle there. It had existed since the beginning of the world. It was formed from the remnants of the Chaos Fiend God. Its physical body was not inferior to that of the ancestral Magi. Its Dharma powers were comparable to that of primordial Chaos Daluo Jinxian. Even the black tortoise sacred beast of the 5 elements sacred beasts did not dare to say that it was superior. However, such a powerful existence was unable to take human form because of its origin. If it could not transform, it could not achieve the Great Tao. As a result, its cultivation level had been stuck at the peak of the quasi-saint realm. It could not break through and take that crucial step. And its 4 feet. It was the best thing to support the sky. As expected, it won't work. On the Emperor Star, Feng Zichen was not too surprised to see that the world tree could not support the heaven realm. This was to be expected. If the world was so easy to support, this apocalyptic calamity would not have been so big. If you can't do it, then I'll help you. With a thought, Feng Zichen changed the array formation and activated the second form of the galactic cosmic light array. Rumble! Star orbits lit up one after another. They were purple and lustrous, forming a mysterious and complicated meridian diagram in the starry sky. Panga's meridian diagram. Whoosh! The moment the meridian diagram was formed, a huge change happened. The chaotic aura that had been sucked in earlier began to flow in the star orbit according to a mysterious pattern. Just like a person moving spiritual aura in his meridians. That's right. This was Feng Zichen's goal. He wanted to let Zhouxing cultivate. In the form of an array, he would restore Zhouxing to Pangu. He would use this to circulate his cultivation method, breathe in and out the chaotic aura, and cultivate. In this way, the repair of the stellar cycles would become a healing process. Then, everything would become simple. In fact, after Zhouxing was repaired, he could even rely on cultivation to take another step forward. As the chaotic aura circulated in the star orbit became more and more solid, as if it had become a real meridian. Moreover, after a large cycle, a lot of chaotic aura was refined and turned into nourishment for repairing the ancient star. Buzz, buzz, buzz. With the first time, the second time was much simpler, then the third time, the fourth time, the fifth time. After a large cycle, the chaotic aura was rapidly refined. Waves of mysterious power were born and merged into the ancient star. The ancient star was nourished. The body that was on the verge of breaking was slowly recovering and gradually returning to stability. This was different from before. Previously, it was the origin of the star demon god that forcefully condensed the star fragments. When the power of the origin of the demon god was exhausted, it would shatter again. Now, it was using the power of the origin obtained from refining the chaotic aura to repair the ancient star to awaken their vitality. It was like being reborn. Everything was developing in a good direction. The ancient star was repaired, and the power of the galaxy cosmic light array became stronger. Correspondingly, the barrier that isolated the chaos outside the sky also became stronger. At the same time, an even stronger suction force came from the galaxy cosmic light array, sucking towards the heaven realm, trying to pull him up. And the blurry figure of Pangu became clearer and clearer. However, other than Feng Zichen, no one could detect his existence. Why is the heaven realm getting lighter and lighter? Below, the moment the heaven realm changed, the Grand Pure One and Saint Jie-in immediately sensed it. Then, they looked up in confusion. Poor Wei, why do I feel that these ancient stars are getting brighter and brighter? Saint Tai Ching narrowed his eyes and said with some uncertainty. If he wasn't wrong, the stars in the sky seemed to be stronger than before. But how was this possible? To repair Zhouxing, the power of the origin was enormous. Even if a saint sacrificed himself, it would be far from enough. No matter how extraordinary Ziwei Starlord was, could he be stronger than a saint? But what was going on with the increasingly powerful stars? For a moment, Saint Tai Ching was at a loss. Although he didn't want to believe it, the facts in front of him made him believe it. Ziwei Starlord seemed to be repairing Zhouxing. Just as everyone was working together to save the world, an extremely secret space under Mount Buzhou quietly changed. It was a purple space filled with a dense purple aura. At the bottom of the space, there was a mysterious purple spirit spring that was constantly spewing out spring water. The purple gas in the space was emitted by this spirit spring. If a powerful person came here, he would recognize that this purple gas spirit spring was none other than Pangu's spinal cord that had disappeared for many years. No one would have thought that Pangu's spinal cord didn't disappear but was hidden. But now, with the collapse of Mount Buzhou, he couldn't hide anymore. Or rather, he had prepared for this moment. The roots of the world tree, under the guidance of an inexplicable force, broke through layers of space and arrived here. Then, without waiting for the world tree to make a move, Pangu's spinal cord pounced on the roots of the world tree like a swallow returning to the forest. Rumble! The world tree had broken through. With the help of Pangu's spinal cord, the world tree, which was on the verge of breaking through, finally completed its transformation and became in existence at the primordial chaos level. Chapter 5:17. Boom! Shocking waves were emitted from the Tree of World. Boundless vitality filled the air and spread to the untainted land. The creatures who were struggling to survive in the great calamity were instantly healed by the vitality. Even the land that had long been devastated was covered in a layer of green under the spread of vitality. Everything grew. Unfortunately, this did not last long. When the vitality dissipated, the great calamity resumed, and everything returned to its original state. However, the changes of the Tree of World did not stop there. It, which had stopped growing, continued to grow. One was pushing up from below, and the other was pulling up from above. The sinking trend of the heaven realm was stopped. A delicate balance was reached between the three. Crack! Suddenly, the crown of the Tree of World grew to the broken part of the heaven realm. Originally, the Tree of World wanted to enter the heaven realm through this gap. However, the gap was too small and it was stuck there. Moreover, the heaven realm here was extremely fragile. The slightest movement of the Tree of World would destroy the surrounding space of the heaven realm, causing the space of the heaven realm to shatter on a large scale. In that case, even the Tree of World would not be able to support the heaven realm. Previously, even if the heaven realm collapsed, it was still a hole. It was like a mirror. Although it was full of cracks, it was not completely broken. However, if the Tree of World was destroyed again, the heaven realm would really be broken into countless pieces. If he were to fall, it would be a disaster. Therefore, the Tree of World did not dare to act rashly, and its growth slowed down. However, this was not without benefits. Because the gap was blocked, the heavenly river that flowed down from the heaven realm would inevitably flow through the Tree of World. However, the Tree of World was a chaos spiritual root. It could be said that its entire body was filled with creation. Even ordinary water that flowed through its body would become divine water, let alone the water of the heavenly river that was already extraordinary. Splash! The heavenly river flowed down from the Tree of World to the untainted land. However, unlike before, the water of the heavenly river now emitted a strong vitality because it had infected the Tree of World. Wherever it passed, the land was no longer flooded. Instead, it was filled with vitality. That's right. The water of the heavenly river turned from the water of destruction into the water of vitality. It no longer brought disaster to the untainted land, but endless vitality. Wherever it passed, the wounds of the land were healed and the destructive aura was melted. The crown of the world tree was the same, and so were its roots. Not long after the world tree took root, the surging earth fire slowly retreated into the underground abyss. The fire chi was swallowed by the Tree of World and became nutrients for its growth. At the same time, the power of the world gushed out from the roots of the Tree of World and merged with the untainted land, smoothing out the veins and calming the riot. For a time, the calamity of the great desolate world actually showed signs of calming down. At the very least, the world tree had saved everyone from the abyss of suffering. This sudden turn of events left everyone unable to react. How could the apocalypse have subsided before they had even done anything? Moreover, what they could not accept the most was that the results they had achieved with all their efforts were not as much as the sum of the man and the tree. This was very unbearable. It made them seem particularly useless. One had to know that they had begun saving the world since the apocalypse. The result was only to temporarily suppress the great calamity. However, this was only a way to treat the symptoms and not the root cause. The great calamity could erupt again at any time. However, the moment the Emperor Starmaster made a move, he repaired the boundless starry sky and reduced the power of the apocalypse by a few points. The divine tree that suddenly appeared was even more incredible. However, in a short period of time, except for the heaven realm, the calamities in the rest of the untainted land were almost all calmed by him. No, it was the heaven realm. It was also affected by him. Since the world tree was named after the world, it must have an incomparable effect on the world. It had all the abilities that the world had. It also had the abilities that the world did not have. Although the world tree didn't dare to continue growing because of the heaven realm, it wasn't completely useless. Waves of mysterious world power were emitted from the crown of the world tree and merged into the surrounding space of the heaven realm, slowly repairing it. The world tree was repairing the heaven realm. However, this process was a little slow, and the heaven realm was too damaged. It would take too long to repair it. But overall, this was a good thing. On the other side, the Grand Pure One was trying to retract his power. As his power was retracted bit by bit, the pressure of the heaven realm falling also shifted towards the saint and the world tree. However, at this moment, the world tree did not emit a creaking sound like before. Instead, it stubbornly held on and continued to support the heaven realm. When the Grand Pure One completely retracted his power, the world tree was still the same as before. It stood between heaven and earth like a heavenly pillar. The heaven realm did not continue to sink. What a divine tree! Seeing this, even the Grand Pure One could not help but sigh. This divine tree was not much worse than a saint. The Grand Pure One had the time to sigh at the magic of the world tree, But the Saint Jain did not think so. He couldn't wait to curse out loud. He wanted to curse the Grand Pure One. After the Grand Pure One withdrew his power, the pressure brought by the sinking of the heaven realm fell on the Saint Jain and the World Tree. First of all, the Saint Jain's strength was not as good as the Grand Pure One's. Secondly, the Saint Jain did not have the Taiji painting like the Grand Pure One. Therefore, compared to the calmness of the Grand Pure One when he was supporting the sky, the Saint Jain felt much worse. He was completely relying on his own strength to hold on. He, who was already feeling terrible, felt even worse when he saw the leisurely Grand Pure One at the side. He wished he could quit on the spot. Unfortunately, he did not dare. If the heavenly realm were to fall because of his abandonment, the heavenly Tao would definitely not let him off. Jain was not the second generation of the gods like the three pure ones. He would not receive preferential treatment from the heavenly Tao. If he made a mistake, although he would not die, the heavenly Tao would not let him have an easy time. Therefore, in the primordial world, the three pure ones lived more freely than Zhu Ti. After waiting for a while, the Grand Pure One said to him, "Fellow Taoist Jain, please slowly retract your strength later so that the poor way can see if this tree can really support the sky. If the world tree could really support the sky, then things would be much simpler. That's how it should be." Saint Jain nodded and began to retract his strength bit by bit. What's going on? Why is the heaven realm getting heavier and heavier? At the same time, Feng Zichen, who was pulling the heaven realm up in the boundless starry sky, suddenly felt that the heaven realm was getting heavier and heavier, causing him to be unable to pull it. F***ck, are they crazy? With a thought, Feng Zichen looked down and saw what was happening. He could not help but curse in his heart. Whoever had something would feel sorry for it. Even though he had guessed that the Grand Pure One and Jain's purpose was to test the limits of the World Tree, Feng Zichen was still worried that something would happen to the World Tree. What if he was crushed by the heaven realm? Therefore, Feng Zichen moved. Go. He raised the Zhouxing painting and merged it with the Galaxy Cosmic Light Array. In an instant, the power of the Galaxy Cosmic Light Array soared. The galaxy flowed quickly, and the cosmic light also rotated endlessly. Even more chaotic chi was refined and turned into the purest origin chi, fusing into the stars, causing them to become even brighter. Whoosh! In the Galaxy Cosmic Light Array, an even greater suction force came, firmly pulling the heaven realm up. In the primordial world, as Saint Jain kept withdrawing his power, the heaven realm, which should have continued to sink, did not move at all under Feng Zichen's pull. The Grand Pure One and Saint Jain looked at each other and thought that there was a chance. They continued to withdraw their power. Unfortunately, the good times did not last long. As time passed, the chaos chi in the Galaxy Cosmic Light Array was exhausted, and the power of the array was no longer strengthened. However, Saint Jain was still withdrawing his power. The heaven realm suddenly dropped a point. A cracking sound came from the void. It was not that the world tree had broken. It was that the crack in the heaven realm had collided with the world tree and became even more serious. Not good. Almost subconsciously, Saint Jain completely released his power and propped up the heaven realm again. From the looks of it, this divine tree can't completely support the heaven realm. It needs the help of other heaven-supporting items. Then let's see how Third Brother is doing. The Grand Pure One stroked his beard and said, "In the North Sea, the Grand Master of Heaven had already found the black tortoise and was negotiating with it. The saint acted on behalf of the heavens and upheld the justice of the heavens. The black tortoise did not commit any mistakes. Even if it was needed to support the heavens, it could not be killed wantonly. Fellow Taoist Black Tortoise, although your body is powerful, it is also a cage that restricts your achievements. Why don't you give it up in exchange for a huge opportunity? In the next life, the Poor Way will personally guide you and help you achieve the Tao." The sect leader of Tong Tian tried his best to persuade him and even made a promise. "All right. Old Tortoise, I agree. Fellow Taoist, I hope you won't forget what you said today." The Black Tortoise thought for a moment and replied in a muffled voice. All turtles had an inexplicable talent in the Tao of deduction. As the turtle ancestor, the Black Tortoise was one of the best in this Tao. He had long predicted that this great calamity of destruction was where his opportunity lay. Therefore, he would not refuse at all. His previous hesitation was just to get some benefits. I won't forget. I definitely won't forget. Seeing that the Black Tortoise agreed, the Grandmaster of Heaven hurriedly promised excitedly. A disciple with heaven-supporting merit would be popular anywhere. If he wanted to become his disciple, the Grandmaster of Heaven would be overjoyed. How could he refuse? Damn it! I don't believe it. I can't afford to pull up the primordial heaven realm. In the boundless starry sky, Feng Zichen made up his mind. He took a step forward and entered the center of the formation, merging with the galaxy cosmic light formation. The next moment, he sat cross-legged and began to circulate his cultivation method. Rumble! In the void that no one could see, the blurry figure of Pangu also sat cross-legged like Feng Zichen. Then, Feng Zichen inhaled and exhaled the connate qi. The blurry figure of Pangu also did the same. Feng Zichen inhaled. But Pangu's figure inhaled. It was incredible. Phew! In the chaos outside the sky, the chaotic qi that was attacking the saints' world seemed to be attracted by some force and quickly rushed toward the boundless starry sky. They were forcefully sucked over by Pangu's Dao shadow. Rumble! After a large cycle, all the chaotic qi that was sucked over was refined. Pangu's figure continued to breathe. But Feng Zichen felt that it was too slow. Therefore, he set his eyes on Mount Buzhou in the lower realm. Although Mount Buzhou had collapsed, it was still formed from Pangu's spine. It had immeasurable divine might, and there was an indelible mark of Pangu on its body. If he could get his hands on it and use it to operate the galaxy cosmic light formation, the power of the formation would be several levels higher. Thinking of this, Feng Zichen was tempted. He was about to take the broken Mount Buzhou. In any case, even if he didn't take it now, the broken Mount Buzhou would be taken away by the Heavenly Lord of the Beginning soon and refined into a powerful postnatal supreme treasure, the overturning sky seal. However, how could a mere overturning sky seal be compared to his great plan? No matter how strong the overturning sky seal was, even if it was the strongest postnatal supreme treasure in the primordial world, it was only a magic treasure and was useless to the primordial world. However, if Feng Zichen's plan succeeded, not only would the boundless starry sky be completely repaired, but it would also have the possibility of unlimited advancement. This was a great thing that would last for eternity. It would be of great benefit to the primordial world. It was enough to affect the endless space-time and countless living beings that came after. Thinking of this, Feng Zichen suddenly felt that he was great. He took away Mount Buzhou not for himself, but for the primordial world and all living beings. Then, he reached out and grabbed the broken Mount Buzhou. In the void where no one could see, Pangu's figure opened his right hand and grabbed the primordial world. Rumble! In the eyes of everyone, Mount Buzhou rose from the ground and flew toward the boundless starry sky. Forget it! I'll let you have it. When the Heavenly Lord of the Beginning saw this scene, he was about to stop him. He had been coveting that section of Mount Buzhou for a long time, but he had never had the chance to take it. But he didn't expect that with his delay, someone else had already taken the lead. However, when he thought of the boundless starry sky, the Heavenly Lord of the Beginning forcefully suppressed the idea of making a move. The other party had made a contribution to the primordial world. If he competed with him for that section of Mount Buzhou, he would really be too ashamed to face others. Feng Zichen controlled Pangu's figure and carefully placed the section of Mount Buzhou in the center of the galaxy's cosmic light formation, which was where Pangu's spine was. A burst of light flashed. The section of Mount Buzhou and the galaxy's cosmic light formation were completely integrated into one. They were inseparable. Almost at the same time. In the invisible void, the facial features and outline of Pangu's figure gradually became clear. It was as if the real Pangu had descended. It was that his body was illusory and not a real entity. Pangu was a god. The highest achievement of the galaxy's cosmic light formation. You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.